the Philadelphia Flyers, at least not in this series. Mike Keenan's team has never scored the first goal in any game of this series, so even though they trailed the Oilers with less than 7 minutes to go last Thursday night, they kept the faith, and why not? That's when Philadelphia's Brian Propp, who's having his best playoff season ever, tied the game at 2 with his power play bullet from the slot. But Coach Mike Keenan and his team needed yet another miracle, yet another score to force a decisive 7th game tonight. And just over a minute after Propp scored, lightning struck again in the spectrum.
On down to Zezel. They've got a 3-on-2. Zezel moves in, feeds for Propp nicely. Back checked away by Curry. Drive, Daniel scores!
J.J. Daniel made believers of the players and fans again, and the message is clear in Philly, both to Lord Stanley and, yes, to Wayne Gretzky. Will the Oilers bail out of their tailspin and win the Stanley Cup tonight, or will Philadelphia pull off what seemed impossible only a week ago? Coliseum in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's time for Game 7. Hockey's ultimate game, live on ESPN. We haven't had the finals of the Stanley Cup go to a decisive 7th game since 1971 in Chicago Stadium. On that night, Montreal beat Chicago 3-2. What will happen tonight? Well, for some pregame comments, let's go upstairs to the men who called tonight's action, Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Thank you, Tom. Boy, we're glad you're with us tonight. We're charged up, maybe a little bit nervous, but Bill, take us into the locker room. What about the players?
I'm not sure I can, Mike. I won 2 championships, but they were in 6 games, so I'm not sure what's going on. It's pressure-filled. I can guarantee you that all of the players have pretty well played this game in their mind when they were little kids, but it was on the street playing road hockey. Pressure is the key word tonight, Mike, and I think the team that doesn't react, or the team that has the smallest reaction to the pressure, will probably win the game tonight.
Do you think any of these guys slept last night?
Oh, I imagine a number of them did, but I guarantee that there's at least a handful on both sides that had trouble sleeping last night.
$17,500 inside, and they are paying as much as $1,000 per seat to scalpers from the outside, Tom.
Yes, and a lot of people wish they had the scratch to get inside here tonight. Let me tell you, a full house, they're going crazy. But down in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, at Kaminsky's Ale House, they're also going crazy, cheering for the orange and black of the Philadelphia Flyers. Our Mike Forrest is standing by live now, so let's go to Mike at Kaminsky's in Cherry Hill.
Thank you, Tom. We are in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and as you can hear, we are with Flyer fans. The Flyers practice rink is about 4 miles that way. We are Cherry Hill, but this is definitely Flyer country. These fans, unlike the fans at the Northlands Coliseum, who are notoriously quiet, as you can hear, are notoriously loud and very supportive of their team. This place is going to go crackers tonight, and we'll be checking back with you throughout the evening. Back to you, Tom.
Mike, there's not much to say except the Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers, hockey's 2 best teams, are about to play 1 game for the Stanley Cup. We needn't say anything more. Settle back and enjoy it tonight, live on ESPN. We'll be right back in a moment. We're working together to be the best. And by the crisp, clean, imported taste of Labatt's Blue. It's blue heaven. I'm telling you, I have never heard this building so loud. Now, for more pregame ceremony, let's go upstairs again, high atop Northlands Coliseum. Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement will do that after we rejoin now the public address announcer for the national anthems of the United States and Canada.
Please, first, the American national anthem, and then please join in and sing along with Canada's national anthem. Mr. Paul Loriot. far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Paul Lorio with the singing of the national anthems of the United States and Canada. The referee for tonight's game is Andy Van Helleman. The linesmen are John D'Amico and Ron Finn. The backup, Dave Newell and Bob Hodges. The off-ice officials are from Calgary.
And as we expected, the battle of the goalies will continue. Still waiting for a glitch, somebody to falter. Ron Hextall hasn't yet. And you know, in the last couple of games, he has emerged from nowhere, as in most writers' minds, and they're the people that vote, as the leading candidate for the Smythe Trophy, as the most valuable player in the playoffs. It's going to be a hectic night for Ron Hextall. And at the other end, Grant Fuhr, who with a performance, a great performance tonight, also has to be considered as a leading candidate for the Smythe Trophy. Both exquisite series, exquisite playoffs.
A game played by grown men goes back to dreams from the basements and driveways and backyard rinks of childhood. In fantasy, it was always Game 7 for the Stanley Cup, and tonight it becomes a reality. The home team has a 6-2 record in the 7th game. Shel Samuelson and Brad Marsh, the defense pair for Philadelphia, and it's the prop line having the first opportunity denied by Fuhr. Puck trickled back from Muni, but Fuhr has to assert himself. Messier, Anderson, and Teagan in the line for the Oilers as a shot on goal by Prop. Rebound pops in front, and it's scooped over for Messier. This is the line that has come up empty in the last 3 games. Glenn Anderson to Messier. Hit by Prop. Loose puck jammed by Nielsen and held by Hextall, and then the stick comes in from Mark Messier.
It came in all right. It came crashing down on Ron Hextall. All of the adrenaline pent up inside. And, you know, Mark Messier had an excellent opportunity to shoot there, Mike. We have heard a number of times that he is injured. We're not sure where. I saw him at one point. I looked through the door about 2 games ago and saw him with an ice pack on his wrist. That looked like a great chance for him to shoot, and he didn't. He ended up trying to deke his way in, wasn't able to get there. Now he's drawn a couple of minutes in penalty.
Stick fouls are always enforced quickly.
There was his chance to shoot, and he didn't bother. He tried to get through both Brad Marsh and Brian Prop. Nielsen backhands. Watch Messier's cross-check. Right on the back of the head of Ron Hextall, and it will be a game of restraint tonight to see who can control their emotions the most, especially in the early going.
Philadelphia really showed some offensive flourish in the first 20 seconds.
Looking for a mistake. Mark Messier threw one out through his own mid-ice section in his own end, and it was gathered up by one of the Flyers, Brian Prop, who had a decent shot. We'll watch for mistakes early. There's almost uncontrollable adrenaline at this stage of the game.
Philadelphia with a power play goal in each of the last 3 games. 5 for 23 on the series. Doug Crossman to Mark Howe. They'll be the point men once they get it set. It is Murray Craven along with Eklund and Brian Prop out, and this is Craven giving to Howe for a shot that was wide. Eklund waiting for Philadelphia. Pivots it off for Crossman. Tested by McTavish. Puck sent further by Howe to Craven. Gets away from the battling of Charlie Huddy. Murray Craven with Prop taken down in front. Gets back up to play. Prop nudges to Mark Howe. Looks for Crossman. Howe with a shot. Pad stop. The arm of Andy Van Helleman is up. And the Oilers will be 2 men short.
What a hole has been dug for the Edmonton Oilers. Paul Coffey broke his stick right in the middle of the shaft. There was a clean break. It didn't even splinter. He cross-checked Brian Prop in the back, and he might have weakened his stick on the cross-check. Yeah, there it goes. And that couldn't have broken his stick. He had to break it on the cross-check. And then he ends up grabbing. There he is, right lower right of your screen, hanging on to Brian Prop while Mark Howe got a shot away. Talk about a break early in the hockey game. 2 men down. The first penalty, 1 minute and 21 seconds left. That was to Messier. So we're looking at a two-man advantage for the Philadelphia Flyers for 1 minute and 21 seconds.
Philadelphia has not had a 5-on-3 in the entire playoffs. The Oilers have seen 2 of these in the playoffs before. They have yielded once, as you see, Glenn Sather. Kevin Lowe, Quebec-born player on this Edmonton Oilers team.
He has a chance here, Mike, too, to be very big. He's one of the premier shot blockers in all of hockey, and you can't measure the value of a great shot blocker when you're down 2 men. Everybody has to chip in, and at one time or another be the goalie, too.
Curry, Lowe, and Muni, the iron 3. They force the Flyers back. It'll be Howe and Crossman remaining with the Eklund, Craven, and Brian Propp combination. Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals, 3 games apiece. Philadelphia has won 5 of its last 6 games by 1 goal. They've been the come-from-behind kids all the way in the Montreal series and in this one. It is Eklund looking, dishes off. Craven, a shot, he scores! And Philadelphia, for the first time in the series, gets on the board first.
And for only the second time in the series, they score a goal in the first period. They have it pretty well in control. Eklund will move it into Craven, and Craven will simply spin around and take a sharp angle shot that you have to believe surprised Grant Fuhr. You've got to figure that he's looking for the pass. This is not a high percentage place to shoot from. Right in off the skate blade perhaps, off the right leg. Huge goal.
And still 1 minute and 32 seconds to go on what is now a 5-on-4 power play. Lowe throws one out of play at the Oilers bench. Messier a cross-check at 34 seconds. Coffey a hold at 1:13. And 18 seconds after that, the first goal of the game.
You know, Mike, the Flyers being here, it's a dream for them. And it's a dream for Murray Craven as he spins around and scores. But for the Oilers, it's a dream, but it's also a potential nightmare. Remember, these were the guys that were leading 3 games to 1. And I have a feeling now that on their bench, a problem now is fighting away the nightmare. They're sitting there saying, the nightmare is happening. We've gone down 2 men. Now we're down a goal. Is it going to get worse? They have to shore it up right now. Psychologically, big test for them. Can't get further behind.
You know, the joke on the street, Bill, has been maybe the Oilers should let Philadelphia get ahead and see how they handle that. But that certainly can't be the joke at the bench.
It's not that far-fetched an idea to try. The Oilers, I think, should they take a lead, especially in the 3rd period, would tend to be plagued by the nightmare of what happened in games 5 and 6. I don't think that's that bad a thought. Intentionally, they don't want to do it, but if it happens, I don't think they'll be very badly off, really.
Puck turned out of play. You wonder if there's any more adrenaline left at the well for these guys in orange,
don't you? And that is something that a coach can only hope doesn't happen, and that is leaving the energy behind. Your palms sweat, the adrenaline is flowing, you have trouble sleeping, and very often it's possible for the player to arrive at the game and be pretty well drained, and it won't show itself until you get to the halfway point, get down towards the 3rd period. Sometimes you leave the energy up in the hotel room or at home if you're one of the Oilers.
1 minute 5 to go on the 5-on-4 power play to Philadelphia, and Kevin Lowe forces the Flyers deep. Crossman takes, boomed right off by Messier, and he turned around and glanced back as it is Mark Howe playing it back ahead for Eklund, checked by Muni, but ahead now Brian Propp. Dumps, attacked by Gretzky, followed up by Crossman. Doug Crossman steps by Gretzky, lays it behind. Pass is turned to the point. Eklund there. Karam's one to Crossman. Crossman finesses, tries to get behind, poked away by Fuhr. Wonderful play by the Oilers goalkeeper.
Well, he's not that rattled, is he? Kevin Lowe went down to block the shot. We talked about his shot blocking. Crossman made a great play. He held it. Then Fuhr had to come out. Fuhr was the last guy, but he did it.
Uncharacteristically, Fuhr gave Crossman a jab with the stick as Sutter tries for the top left and fails. 15 seconds to go power play. 1-0 Philadelphia ahead on a 5-on-3 power play goal. We're early in the first period. Just over 3 minutes have gone off the big scoreboard clock. 17:502. That means 384 fans are standing here tonight at the Northlands Coliseum. Ron Sutter twirls back, and with that, penalty time is up. The teams are back even now. Samuelson playing for Sutter, who chipped one off Randy Gregg. Moving forward is Charlie Huddy. Avoids the check of Derek Smith and lays it around to Marty McSorley. McSorley headmans to McTavish. Crossing with Dave Hunter. McTavish wedged by Samuelson, and the puck loose for the big defenseman Kjell Samuelson. That one hit off Derek Smith and is chased down by Reijo Ruotsalainen. Ruotsalainen has come up empty in the entire series for the Oilers. No goals, no assists. Maybe he can change it now with a drive that's blocked off by Hextall. McCrimmon throws it around, but Dave Hunter is there. Here's Hunter with a shot. Save. Hextall doesn't see it. It's picked up by Brad Marsh. Around it is wrapped. Sinisato can't play, but on with it is Craven. Outlet pass over to Derek Smith. He's tied up by McSorley and then carried to the boards and glass.
Mike, we know it's the Flyers' defensive play that really got them this far and gave them the great season they had. What a great example of it. Brad Marsh and McCrimmon were both there when Hextall needed them.
And there'll be a penalty coming up to Philadelphia. Gretzky has drawn an infraction. A Flyer to the penalty box. First power play coming up for the Oilers. They trail 1-0.
There's a look at Dave Poulin, who's off for tripping here. 15:38 to go in the first period. The Flyers leading by 1. Here comes Wayne Gretzky. You know that he'll be in the center of all kinds of attention by the Philadelphia Flyers, and that time Poulin just got the stick on him. Here's a good overhead look at the save Hextall made, and he loses it. He goes to the right. Oh, what a great play by McCrimmon, hooking Curry out of the way. Yari Curry was right there. There's McTavish trying to get Brad Marsh, but the defenseman prevailed.
Krushelnyski with Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky. It'll be Greg and Ruotsalainen the point men. After that faceoff, Peter Zezel came to the bench. So it is Ron Sutter and Propp penalty killing for Philadelphia, and back Samuelson and Brad Marsh. 15:20 left. First period, Philadelphia ahead 1-0. Power play to the Oilers. They try for Krushelnyski. It bounces to Greg, and Greg's shot is blocked away by Hextall. Greg behind. Gretzky feeds. Back out it comes to Curry. Yari Curry with a look. Slow pass to Ruotsalainen, and that caused a problem. Nearly picked off by Propp, then drilled down by Samuelson.
No, that's the kind of slow pass that will come back to haunt you forever. That came about 6 inches from being a breakaway for the Flyers. He's got to snap him faster than that.
On comes Curry. Pass went right into Craven and is cleared back down by Zezel. 5 shots Oilers, 4 shots Philadelphia. Craven, the forechecker, is pivoting away is Steve Smith. Hands on to Curry, then ahead to Wayne Gretzky. Spins it off, but it's from the heel of the skate of Messier to be sent further by Craven. Smith drops it back to Gretzky. Anderson is now on the ice for the Oiler power play, which has 50 seconds to go. Messier, Anderson, in some traffic problem, hands over to Smith. Well, you've often said we should watch for nervous mistakes, especially early in a crucial game. We've seen a couple already. Anderson turns it loose again, and the Oilers have not crossed the red line since they made the shift change. Now it is Anderson. Wedged off on the play by Acton. Tries to dump it further and get to the top of the drive. Answered by Fuhr. Glenn Anderson hurries it back out. 15 seconds to go in the power play as he connects with Messier. Moves in, surrounded by Flyers, but beats one over to Charlie Huddy. Huddy and Gretzky, and it's fed back out to Lowe. Lowe plays it over to Anderson, gets it back again, angles one for Gretzky, spins for Anderson, tipped away. You saw the Flyers converge, both with sticks outstretched, and it's Tocchet advancing it now to Eklund. Penalty time is up. They feed for Tocchet on the wing, checked off by Anderson, and Anderson, with some help along the way from Charlie Huddy, can step free. 13:25 to go first period. Penalty box empty. Shots even at 5. Flyers ahead 1-0. McTavish a shot, and that went off Crossman. Moving in is McSorley. Behind it is Daigneault, and Dave Poulin, the captain of the Flyers, moving on this one, but is checked loose by McTavish, so Gretzky can't make a play. Daigneault dropped, then is checked by McSorley as Doug Crossman feeds for Sinisato, but it skitters all the way back down, and the puck sent from the defensive side of the center red line over the opposition end line and touched by a member of that team. First icing stops the clock with the score. The Flyers 1, the Oilers 0.
By some pretty stable penalty killing by the Flyers. Rick Tocchet down the wing with a big blast on Grant Fuhr. That was a feed from Kelly Eklund. That was a short-handed chance. So that tells you what the Flyers are doing. They are on top of their game.
Here is Sinisato starting out with Poulin up the wing. Sinisato feeds for Poulin, but it's collared on defense by Muni. Quickly connects with McSorley, then through now to Dave Hunter. Hunter with a quick wrist shot blocked by Hextall. And Hextall sweeps it back along to Sinisato. Cross-ice passes to Poulin. Has Craven moving, and now we'll just loft the safety that goes over the back glass and will force a center ice faceoff. Bill, we've played 7:25. What have you seen?
I've seen the Edmonton Oilers look very jittery, and I don't have trouble understanding why. Here's Hunter's shot. And Hextall snares. Well, that was a pretty good save. It didn't look like it when he first made the shot. But you would have to expect that the pressure is on the Oilers. And Kent Nilsson told me this morning, we are going to shoot a lot more, especially me. Kent Nilsson's angry. That time it was Hunter that shot. But the Oilers are the ones that are under the gun. Remember, the trade was planned a few days ago for Game 5 in here. Everybody expected the Oilers to dispense with the Flyers. In Game 5, it didn't happen. Game 6, it didn't happen. They're the ones that are under the gun. So it's no wonder to me that they look jittery. And it shows itself, to me, their big guns are making poor passes. I've seen Wayne Gretzky try some low percentage passes. Messier, Anderson, they haven't clicked on any of their passing. That's one of this team's greatest skills.
Puck wound around, and it's Carson dropping it back. Messier to take over. Kent Nilsson, the man that Bill just mentioned, is out now with Messier and Anderson, and this is Anderson getting by one. Feeds up the wing for Nilsson, across to Messier, scores! Tic-tac-toe, game tied.
Could this be the goal that gets this line on track? What a move here by Henderson. A great mid-ice move. And then a super pass to Nilsson, who's going to appear to the left. There he is, breaking by Dave Brown. The feed to Messier, and it's not a good pass. It jams him, but Mark Messier is able to still direct it into the net. One of the most skilled lines in the world, the fastest skating line in the world by most people's reckoning. Messier, Anderson, Nilsson have tied it. There's the scorer right there.
Anderson and Nilsson the assist. Messier's first goal of this series. So this one is now stalemated at 1. Moving in is Tikkanen. Shot from him, though, by Samuelson, though Tikkanen followed through on a thumping check. Moves to this one. And gives it back to Curry. Slams one. Save, Hextall. Rebound collared by Gretzky. Feeds it back. Ruotsalainen. Shot. Save, Hextall. Covers. Stoppage of play. Thundering ovation. 17,500. Many of them standing. Game tied at 1.
We have a pretty good view from where we sit up here, and this isn't the exact location, but it's close. Nice overhead of the pass from Nilsson, and from up here, as soon as Nilsson got it, we all agree we're sitting here, stage manager, statistician, Mike Emmerich, myself, we all knew that Kent Nilsson would see Mark Messier on that play. He sees the big play.
Ruotsalainen off Mark with the shot. Marsh rolls back down, and Grant Fuhr will tend. Oilers have gotten the last 4 shots in the game. One of them has gone in. It is tied at 1. Glad you've joined us tonight on ESPN with Tom Mees and Bill Clement. Mike Emmerich from the Northlands Coliseum. Down goes Tikkanen. The arm of Andy Van Hellemond remains down, and that prompts some booing and also thoughtless throwing of debris. This is Hextall moving back out to play it. Swings it around, and Gretzky leaps but can't come up with it.
Great play by Hextall. He knows Gretzky's there. What does he do? He just goes over him. He shot that thing 10 feet into the air.
Play is to Gretzky. Loses to Eklund. Chips one that is handled by Samuelson. And Samuelson nicely away from Tikkanen. Big drive, and that blocked by Fuhr and then cleared back out. Tocchet to play for Philadelphia. Rolls it back in, but it's Craig Muni on defense. With 10:50 to go in the first period. Gretzky moves ahead, but Howe denies him. Not once, but twice. Hunter rams into Howe, and the play comes back to Philadelphia. On with it is Eklund. Feeds it across. Prop with a shot. Blocked. It's loose in front. Swept away by McSorley out of the crease. Turnarounder. And it came to McCrimmon. Feeds one in front that's dumped away by Lowe. How close can it come? McTavish back in for the Oilers. Leaned on by the stick of McCrimmon, but he peels away. Greg McTavish still working for Edmonton. McSorley in to help out. Pointed back to Lowe. Lowe cranks one. Off the pad of Hextall and gathered in by Eklund. In a heap were Hextall and McTavish, but Lowe starts it back the other way again from center. Hextall goes charging out to play, but this is an offside call. And now Hextall and McSorley. We're locked for just a moment.
McSorley's in control tonight. He wouldn't mind drawing a penalty on Ron Hextall, and if he can just nudge him enough to get Hextall off his game and mad enough to take a penalty, he will have done a big service. Not as big as the one he paid to Grant Fuhr. Here's the shot by Prop, and we'll see McSorley come back in deep. Keep in mind he's a forward. There are the 2 defensemen out of the play. Here comes Marty McSorley, and you know, defensemen and forwards are always kidding one another. They get back and forth sarcastically, position by position. Oh, yeah, it's the defense. You need help from us. And similar to defenses and offenses in football. But that time, the defenseman got the help from the forwards, and it was Marty McSorley that came all the way back in. Fuhr had absolutely no idea where it was.
Some of you longtime hockey fans will remember the names Schultz, Bladen, Flett, McLeish, Kelly, Kindredchuk, Jim Watson, Joe Watson. They're all here tonight.
They were brought here by Flyer President Jay Snyder. We're going to take a look at McTavish first, bashing into Hextall. Boy, they're going to crowd tonight. It's going to be a long night for Hextall in that crease. Jay Snyder, along with his dad, Ed Snyder, the Flyers owner, brought all of those players that Mike mentioned here to Edmonton. To see if the current Flyers could draw from the tradition. And everybody got together last night, paid respects, everybody wishing one another luck.
Andy Van Helleman, the referee, 16th year of calling them. We may be seeing the last game tonight of John D'Amico as a linesman. His 23rd season, he's 49. Said, I'm going to give it some thought. Once the season's over, this could be his last. And what a career he's had. Even did some refereeing in the early days. But was a linesman back when the Flyers first won their championship in '74. And even before that. On now, it is Kent Nielsen. Feeds it back for a shot. Blocked off by Hextall. And then Anderson brushes into him. And Hextall just now getting back on all fours. Play made back up the wing. It's Mellanby for Philadelphia. Centers one off a skate. It went off Huddy and is punched away by Fuhr. Anderson tries to clear. Second effort, he'll be able to move it out to Messier. Has a man on the wing, Nielsen, and gets it to him. Nielsen wants to shoot. Now fires. Save! Hextall. Rebound, pump loose. Hextall, Nielsen has shot blocked by Hextall. Another one spun across. Charlie Huddy to play. Along to Messier. Tested there by Mars. In comes Zezel, but it's kicked and not Samuelson's play to make. Wrapped around, Paul Coffey centers one, but it's Brad Marsh getting it on the Philadelphia defense and laying it back out. Is Hextall on it right now? Incredible. 9:08 to go. First period still tied at 1.
Just another blast by Kent Nielsen. He said he was going to shoot. He's starting off wanting that puck and wanting to shoot every time he gets it. I almost thought that Brad Marsh might have made the save. We'll see about another look at. Well, we're not going to see it. Hextall made one, and then Nielsen got it again. Great chances at both ends.
Crossman to Carson. Taken out by Curry on his Sutter. Able to control. Ron Sutter flipped it into Curry, but still battles for it. Punched it deep, and it is Tikkanen for Edmonton. Game tied at 1. Messier his 12th of the playoffs. Craven his first. Cravens came first, and that's a rarity in this series, as Philadelphia, up until tonight, had not gotten the first goal in any of these games. Best of 7 Stanley Cup finals. With Tom Mees and Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich from Northlands Coliseum. This is it. It doesn't go any further. This is the latest the NHL has ever played a Stanley Cup game. 31st of May. On now with it is Gregg. Connects to Tikkanen. Back for Wayne Gretzky. With Gregg in front. Backhander. Blocked away and then swept by Hextall. Tocchet takes over. Gregg jostling with Daniel, who has lost his stick. Meanwhile, back in comes Tocchet to Ron Sutter. Deep slot. Can't get a pass away. Denied on that one by Muni. Wayne Gretzky slides it ahead. Dave Hunter moving in, surrounded by Flyers. And they'll bring it back with Rick Tocchet carrying. Muni moves out. Fuhr has to help him make the play and then handcuffs him. Marty McSorley can't move it ahead. Eklund's forechecking pays off. It's clock swinging behind, centering one, and it's off Tocchet as he was wrapped up by McSorley. It is McCrimmon connecting on the turning wing to Rick Tocchet, but that one a two-line pass stopping the clock. You want to know how tough it is in the pit. Get a look at Daniel.
And Mike, this thing goes on and on to the point that the Flyers actually had a flurry down at the other end of the ice.
The score of the game, Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. Back to play, Brad McCrimmon with a pass that is tipped by Craven, gathered in by Muni. Onside? No. Offside for McSorley. For those of you who just may be coming a part of this wonderful event of hockey tonight, we know that it's attracted attention of non-hockey fans as well. The puck must be the last thing or rather the first thing across the last blue line, nearest the net at which you hope to score. If it's not, and one of your team is over, then the play is stopped and we have a center ice face-off for result. It can also happen on a pass, and that is what we've just seen.
And if you have been with us all the way, you're looking at a Craig McTavish who's changed his look. He doesn't have a beard. Day before yesterday, when the Oilers arrived back here in Edmonton, McTavish started it, and everyone but Glenn Anderson followed. About 8 or 9 of them had beards. They've all shaved, except Glenn Anderson.
Prop moves in. Hit by McTavish. Muni to play on the defense. Puck trickles. Tocchet can't play. And it is Marty McSorley with 7:10 to go first period. Game tied at 1. Down went McTavish. Oilers fans upset because there's no penalty. Hextall leads for Howe. Howe forced. Shoves to Tocchet. Pass too far for Prop. And so it's Huddy down, and Fuhr will not play to him. Instead, off the boards from McSorley. In stride. On with it. Paul Coffey. Quick shot is knocked down by Marsh. Follow up by Messier. Lost off his stick. Scramble in front. Nielsen poked at it, but it is underneath. Ron Hextall, the goalkeeper.
Boy, the white wave looks as if it's building. And we have not seen Paul Coffey carry the puck with authority consistently throughout the playoffs, especially in this series. But boy, does he get it going here. Brad Marsh blocks the first one, but the key is Messier right behind him, who blazes right around Derek Smith for the rebound. Kent Nilsson's there for the rebound. They're a hungry bunch of Oilers. And that will create problems. Look at the traffic Hextall has. I mean, it's one thing to make the save when you're unscreened, but he is not even getting away with being untouched. They are running into him every chance they get. I'll guarantee you, though, they will not throw him off his game mentally. They might push him out of the way physically, but he's proven to me that he's as strong mentally as any pro athlete I've ever seen.
There you see Paul Coffey bearing down. Every man giving a Hextall a little nudge. This one goes through Coffey, and so the Oilers must regroup. Coffey and Huddy in back. That's the defense for the Oilers. And they have the Anderson, Messier, and Nielsen line up front. Puck flicked back over and followed up by Anderson. Watched by Marsh. Shot turned away by Hextall. And it is Marsh, followed up by Anderson. Follows through on his check. This is Messier. Hits the crossbar. No light is on. Play continues. The Oilers think they have one.
Oh, they're playing their song. I mean, Andy Van Hellemond was looking at the goal judge. He didn't put the light on. Van Hellemond never blew it down. It didn't look from here as if it went in. Mike, did you see it as going in?
I thought it struck the crossbar.
Me too.
Here's Nielsen working on now to Mark Messier. 6 minutes left in the period. Messier tries to get through Samuelson, and Brad Marsh is there. On with it comes Brian Prop. This is a 2-on-2 with Ron Sutter. The drop is to him. Tries to finesse the defense, but Fuhr there to poke the puck along. Glenn Anderson for the Oilers. But this is Shel Samuelson for Philadelphia. Crowd still buzzing a little bit at what they thought was a goal. Tikkanen moves in. Pestered by Eklund's checking. Puck handled by McCrimmon. Kept in nicely by the glove of Curry, but then lost in Eklund. Outlet for Philadelphia. On the wing to Prop. Big drive. Just caught calmly by Fuhr. Rayo Ruotsalainen, the one-time Ranger. Played in Europe early in the season. Came in the latter stages. Tikkanen's pass. Up the wing is off Curry. Hextall moves out. Chops it high. And along for Mark Howe. If this is the first look you're getting at Ron Hextall, he and Grant Fuhr are as different in styles, especially when they handle the puck, as day and night. Turning with this now is Mellanby, away from the checking of Gretzky. Mellanby trying to force it by Curry. Just the battle of feet along the boards. It is Howe connecting on to Brad McCrimmon with 4:40 to go in the period. Flyers want a shift change, so they just drop in and get the shift completed with Daigneault coming on now along with Crossman. Ahead for Edmonton is Hunter. Crosses and drops for Curry. Slam, and that's deflected wide. Could be Gretzky got a piece of it. Muni flips one in front, glove down by Mellanby. Pestered by Hunter, who backhanded it wide. Crossman there, but it is given up to Kevin Lowe. Lowe flips, but into the glove hand of Crossman. Advances up the wing for Derek Smith. Smith fires one, and that one dropped by Fuhr. Swings it back along. Daigneault pinching. Drives one off a skate. Loose puck, and it's a drive wide. Back up with it now comes Kent Nielsen. 2-on-2. Fires one off of Hextall. Curry along to play, but Sinisato clears it out. Oilers must regroup so that they're not offside. Puck popped into the glove of Hextall. Poked away, but then Nielsen a drive, and Hextall just in time. Sinisalo on now for Poulin. Dodges a check, loses the puck. McTavish back. Bumped off by Sinisalo. Loose puck to Dave Poulin. 3.5 to go. Tried for Sinisalo, but it's off his skate. Zezel, and then Poulin, and then Zezel moves to the front as Poulin slots to Crossman. Crossman, a shot wide. Poulin, though staggered by a check, tried to play and punch it further and does. Peter Zezel wrapped up by Coffey behind and wrestled off. In comes Poulin, but he can't get to it because of McTavish. Two aside, all the energy they've got battling for it. Puck to Crossman, save yours!
Cross up, Mike. Two centermen out there, Messier and McTavish, and they couldn't make up their mind which one was a left winger, which one was a centerman. As a result, Crossman was open at least twice.
Here's Gretzky, pass tipped loose by Eklund. 1-1, 2:45 to go in the first period. Oh, this is great. Back on with it now comes Daigneault. Drops it back in. Each time you see one of those nervous mistakes, it seems to be answered. Grant Fuhr that time blocked the shot of Crossman as Tocchet flips it back in. Randy Gregg turning for the Oiler defense. Beyond the reach of Propp and a chance for Gretzky to move away. Samuelsson is back on defense. Gretzky lays it for Ruotsalainen, and because of the checking of Propp, he couldn't get a shot away. Randy Gregg now joined by Craig Muni on defense as the Oilers are in the midst of a shift change. Curry's pass goes to Kjell Samuelsson, but it's Gretzky working back on, though he misses for Tikkanen. In the final 2 minutes of period one, the goal scorers are Craven and Messier. Game tied at 1, series tied at 3. Fuhr sets, Craig Muni takes. Banks it off for Curry, loses to Carson. Front of the net, a shot by Scott Mellanby was blocked away by Muni, and the puck tapped further by Gretzky. Ron Hextall cradling it, throws it back for Ron Sutter. Shift change on for the Oilers. That's why Curry didn't make the play. He was coming to the bench. Back on now comes Messier. Messier drops to Anderson. Fights his way through. He shot one that was tipped wide. Taking it now is Huddy. Huddy tries to center. Blocked away by Hextall, and it's popped wide. Turning with it is Scott Mellanby. Up the wing now for defenseman Brad McCrimmon. Moves in with Smith, and Grant Fuhr out to take over. 1 minute and 10 seconds to go in this opening period. The shots are 17-12, the Oilers. Penalties are 3 in number. All minors, and 2 of those to Edmonton. Huddy wedged by Craven. And Murray Craven starts it ahead for Poulin. Nearly run off the play by McSorley. Gets it back again. While falling, plays wide.
Mike, we should have known that neither one of these goalies is going to falter. Just splendid play at both ends with quality chances. It'll be interesting to see the total quality shots. They've both had excellent opportunities. Once again, it's the Grant Fuhr versus Ron Hextall battle.
The score of the game remains Flyers 1, Oilers 1.
This is really the first stoppage in play we've had since Mark Messier dinged one either off the post. That looked like it went right through under his arm, didn't it? It billowed the back of his sweater, the wind, the swoosh going by. But we still haven't been able to take a look and see what it hit. Maybe we'll catch it on this angle. Here's Messier. It looked like crossbar even from that angle, Mike.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, absolutely. And Kent Nilsson stood there for seconds with his arms in the air, expecting the goal to be called. And just now, Wayne Gretzky has left Andy Van Helleman's side, and we're underway. Gretzky is satisfied that it wasn't a goal.
Brad Marsh rolls, Ruotsalainen keeps. It is Jari Kurri, but he gave it up to Marsh. The last half minute of this period. Marsh steps by Tikkanen, loses control, though, and the puck dumped back near Kjell Samuelsson. Swedish-born defenseman angles one back in. Played back out by Gregg to Gretzky. Has Tikkanen moving with him. Gretzky fakes the big drive, then curls. That's his play. It's to Gregg. Wide! As Hextall was down when the shot came through.
Everybody was down. Brad Marsh was down with his legs in the air. So was Hextall. I think Randy Gregg just shot wide.
And the siren goes to end the first period. 18 shots for the Oilers, 12 for the Flyers. At the end of one, game tied at 1. It is 1-1 at the end of the first period. The off-ice officials tonight are from Calgary, and they agree with the on-ice official, Andy Van Helleman from Guelph, Ontario, that the shot by Messier was not a goal.
Boy, they better not announce the off-ice official's hometown. For anybody that doesn't follow this division, one of the greatest rivalries in sports, Calgary and Edmonton. Here's Messier's shot. Went right in tight. And we've seen it from another angle. We knew it came off the crossbar. Great chances at both ends.
Craven from Eklund and Crossman at 1:41. Messier from Anderson and Nielsen at 7:45. Thrilling first period. It has come to a close with the score knotted at 1.
With the pros, play VCL Hockey.
What a first period of hockey from the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. We are tied at 1 after 1. Neither team asking any quarter or giving any. Ron Hextall on the top of his game in the goal for Philadelphia. Grant Fuhr also on top of his game. Both the goaltenders had some help from their friends. Brad March, I recall, cleared away a puck out of harm's way that was not in the vicinity where Ron Hextall was, and Grant Fuhr got some Johnny-on-the-spot help by Marty McSorley. The goals again, Philadelphia striking first on the power play, a two-man power play advantage early in the game. First goal of the playoffs for Murray Craven from Pelle Eklund, and then Mark Messier, his 12th goal of the entire playoffs. He gets the goal with assist to Kent Nilsson and Glenn Anderson, so we're tied at 1, and don't dare go away. This is going to be one heck of a 7th game. In fact, this 7th game has attracted so much media attention. There are no less than 6 television outlets doing this game tonight. I mean, it's almost like the Super Bowl has moved north of the border. Let's take a look at some of the equipment. Satellite dishes dot the landscape outside the Northlands Coliseum. There are 4 networks from Canada, 2 French-speaking networks, 2 English-speaking networks, and you've also got the local Philadelphia station. You also got, of course, ESPN. There's the CBC English studio, and you can see a look at some of the hardware that is following the Stanley Cup 7th game. 6 remote TV trucks, 100 technicians, a total of 25 cameras and 21 tape machines, and they didn't start setting any of this up till the wee hours of early this morning after the circus moved out of town, elephants and all. They were occupying the Northlands Coliseum as late last night. We'll look at some key numbers from the first period of play in just a moment. Our score live from Edmonton, Philadelphia 1, Edmonton 1. We'll be back with our first period intermission in just a moment.
Here at Light Rock 97 WENS, we play a huge role.
Most of you have been sitting in the comfort of your living room watching tonight's Stanley Cup Ultimate Game, but in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, hundreds have flocked to Kaminsky's Ale House. That is Flyer territory. To get a flavor of what it's like to watch this game in the Philadelphia area, let's join Mike Forrest live at Kaminsky's. Mike?
Thank you, Tom. These people have been going crazy throughout the whole first period. When Murray Craven scored the goal, I think this roof almost came off the building. A lot of athletes hang out here at Kaminsky's, and with me tonight is John Bunting, played for the Philadelphia Eagles, linebacker, and John played in the Super Bowl in 1980. And talk to me, John, about the preparation for a Super Bowl as compared to the preparation per se for a 7th game of a Stanley Cup series.
7th game, hard to say how much difference it might be, but I know once you get there, you want to win it all. And my hat's off to these guys. I mean, win or lose, I'm with them. They're a great bunch of people. They really are. They've worked their butts off to get there.
Talk to me about the first period. You watched it here on the big 7-foot screens. What did you think of it?
The Flyers had a lot of opportunities. They created a lot of opportunities. And unfortunately, they didn't get the puck in. Looks like they had a couple more tries. They could have gotten in. Could be 3-1 ball game.
Okay, from John Bunting, let's go to some of the fans here. Thank you, John. What did you think about this first period?
My name's Jim Doyle, and I think the Flyers are going to win it. And the Flyers played excellent hockey in that first period, especially Ron Hextall in net. I take my hat off to him.
Take your hat off there and we'll find this young lady. You a Flyer fan? Well, I think that about sums it up. A lot of yays, a lot of screaming. Mike Forrest in Cherry Hill. We're going to go back to Tom Mees at the Northlands Coliseum. Take it away, Tom.
All right, Mike, I'll take it away before they take you away. Some truly unbiased opinions on tonight's 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals. We're 1-1 after 1. We'll be back with the Bud Light scoreboard as our first period intermission continues in just a moment. And welcome back to our Stanley Cup studios in Edmonton Live. I'm Tom Mees. Time now again for the Bud Light scoreboard. 1 goal for the Philadelphia Flyers, 1 goal for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's take a couple of looks at how each of those markers went in the net. First of all, with the 2-man power play as we begin our Bud Light scoreboard, the Flyers got on the board first, and it was Murray Craven who had not had a goal the entire playoffs. Of course, he's been injured much of the playoffs. Look at the setup, 5-on-3. This is Pelle Eklund Into the corner to Murray Craven, who really picks out a bad angle and beats Grant Fuhr. Bill Clement speculated that Fuhr might have been surprised on the shot. I think I'd have to agree with him. Again, Eklund searches out Craven. Maybe Fuhr thought Craven was going to pass this because he had a man open on the doorstep, but instead he just shot it at a bad angle and scored. But big Mark Messier evened the score about 7 or 8 minutes later for the Edmonton Oilers. Nice move here by Glenn Anderson at mid-ice. Motors into the zone. Good pass to Kent Nilsson. Nilsson's pass jams Messier a little bit, but he just muscles it right by Ron Hextall, who had to play the shooter. He had to play Nilsson. Neither goaltender could be faulted very much, I don't think, on either goal, although Hextall certainly couldn't be faulted at all on that drive. Now, Mark Messier was guilty of a little premature cheering here. In the slot, shoots. He thinks the puck went in the net. It clearly hit the crossbar. Nilsson's cheering. Now, the Flyers, meanwhile, they were motoring down ice with the puck. And Grant Fuhr also had to help save the day for the Edmonton Oilers later in the first period. Fuhr, who's been spectacular, stops Doug Crossman at point-blank range. Crossman found himself open several times into the first period, but Fuhr was equal to the task. As we take a quick look at some of the key numbers from that first period of play, some key statistics now. We'll see the shots. Well, 18-12 in favor of Edmonton. Quality shots dead even. And both sides did have their share, that's for sure. Face-offs, really no factor in the game. Slight advantage to Philadelphia. Turnovers, well, Bill Clement mentioned earlier that the Oilers, he thought, were a bit jittery in their passing the puck, at least in the first half of the first period, and that turnovers column certainly affects that. What drama awaits us in the second and third periods? Buckle your seatbelts. We'll find out in a moment. This is it for the Bud Light scoreboard. We'll be back with Road to the Cup, the Stanley Cup Finals, live on ESPN, being brought to you by Bud Light, the light beer with a first name and taste. Everything else is just a light. And by Volvo, a car you can believe in. Well, the Oilers and the Flyers are giving fans across North America a hockey game they can certainly believe in. We're 1-1 after one. Let's go back up now for the second period to Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Thank you, Tom. Fans here are standing as their team is skating around prior to the start of the second period here. Murray Craven got the first goal of the game at 1:41, his third of the playoffs, second of the series on the power play from Eklund and Crossman. Then Mark Messier with his first goal of this series, 12th overall in the playoffs. Anderson and Nielsen assisting at 7:45. Shots 18-12, Oilers. Game knotted at 1. Bill, you know, throughout this playoff, we've talked about the contrasting styles and who's able to lure who into playing their type of game. What's the answer after 20 minutes?
Well, I think if I were Mike Keenan standing behind the Flyers bench, I saw too much white going back and forth in front of me. The Flyers did an excellent job in the neutral zone when they were man down, and they did an excellent job during the first 6 or 7 minutes of the game when the Oilers really, I think, had the jitters, had the adrenaline jitters. After that, the Oilers seem to be cruising pretty well through the neutral zone, and that's where we talked about their zone to gain speed in, and they have a lot of it. The Anderson, Nilsson, Messier line, Gretzky, Curry, when they're out there with Tikkanen. So I think Mike Keenan might want to clamp it down in the neutral zone a little more and stop that big white wave from coming, because if it continues, we have to point out once more that the Oilers really do have more snipers, more pure goal scorers than the Flyers do.
Many of you may remember the game in 1971. Henri Richard went around the right defense, Keith Magnuson, and was able to flip one in past Tony Esposito. And the goaltending duel that year was Esposito and the Conn Smythe winner, Ken Dryden. We're underway in the second period at Muni, hammered by Derek Smith. On with it flies Mark Messier. Turns it over to Nielsen. Nielsen had 5 shots in that first period, so Billy followed through on what he told you. He was going to shoot more often. He had 5 shots on goal of the 18 the Oilers had.
And, you know, he's changed sticks, too. I'm not even sure what brand he went from and which brand he went to, but all season long he used a certain type of stick, and I was able to pass him just when he was rushing from a quick interview before the game back into the locker room, and he said, I'm changing sticks tonight, I'm shooting more, and he said unequivocally that the area where the press conferences are held, which is between the ice surface and the Oilers locker room, would be occupied by him, by Kent Nilsson. He said, I will be there when the game is over, I will be there as a winner. That's how sure a lot of the Oilers were that they were going to win.
It is Peter Zezel controlling for Philadelphia, and Fuhr goes back to play over for Muni. Around it comes to Anderson, stepped into by Tocchet, and Messier can't flip it out as it bounces off Zezel. Tocchet and Anderson tie up, and Anderson able to step away. This is a line that has figured in the only goal scored by the Oilers tonight, and a line that has had a lot to prove lately. Messier moves in. Anderson a shot, and that shanked off a Flyer leg. Going back for this is Ruotsalainen. Flyers want to make a change. They do. McCrimmon and Howe come out on defense, and it is Ruotsalainen sending one through to Messier with Jari Kurri. Messier drops. Kurri shoots, and it's saved by Hextall, Ron Sutter. And Kurri tie in the corner. Puck fed, but off of Scott Mellanby. Mellanby for Philadelphia. Crisp pass ahead was across two lines, stopping the clock. 18:41 to go in the second period. Our game is tied at 1.
Here's a slow look at something that was happening real fast. Mark Messier crossing the blue line. Notice where Mark Howe is. They're back into the half marks. The Oilers, when they come in a wave, if the Flyers want it back in, you know that they're going to shoot. Oh, how many angles do we have covered? How big is this show? There are 6 different television feeds coming out of the Edmonton Northlands Coliseum. 25 cameras, 21 replay machines, French, Canada, local Philadelphia, 2 English, Canadian broadcasts, us.
And you saw a number of still photographers there as well as McSorley hammers into Mellanby. Brad McCrimmon trying to reach it for Philadelphia and is able now to control. A minute and a half gone here in the second period. Series tied at 3, and this game is tied at 1, and we're glad you've joined us tonight on ESPN. Greg taps. Mark Howe reacts for Philadelphia, connects with Ron Sutter, but his pass came to McSorley. Marty McSorley. Just pass ahead to McTavish. Has an opening. Moves in, and McTavish spins. Save made by Hextall.
How does he do that?
Incredible. Ruotsalainen thought there was an icing there, but play continues, and now the Oilers regroup as moving in as McTavish. The play came across, and McSorley couldn't get it. Goaltending has just been phenomenal. It practically leaves us short of any sort of explanation. And Hextall has been a marvel. Grant Fuhr has as well. And because of Hextall's marvelous play and goal, Philadelphia is in this series and is in a Game 7. Paul Coffey stepping ahead. Worked on by Daigneault. Puck taken by Eklund. 3-on-3. Eklund moves in. Down on the lean of Kurri. Tocchet centers one. But Gretzky has it for Edmonton. Quick pass because Daigneault was there. And so it is Tikkanen. Laying it up on the wing for Jari Kurri. Tikkanen breaking. Kurri looking. Chased off by Crossman. Has to size up the play and gives it right up to Brian Propp. Propp moving ahead. Kurri knocks him down. 3:05 gone, second period. Wayne Gretzky peels back and hands to Muni. Muni plays on now to Tikkanen. Tikkanen scoreless in the last dozen games. For Kurri, but played back out by the captain of Philadelphia, Dave Poulin, and so it's Ruotsalainen once more. Pivoting away from the hook attempt of Sinisalo. Now it is Wayne Gretzky. Tested by Poulin, but the play made to Anderson up the wing. Ruotsalainen by the defense. Down he goes. There'll be a penalty coming up. 16:21 to go, second period. Game tied, 1-1.
We are seeing something in this game that we haven't seen too much of, and that is defenseman rushing. But here's a forward rush. It's Craig McTavish. Watch the save by Hextall. Oh, great move by McTavish, following a great feed by McSorley. I think that's why they ended up with a 2-on-1. Mark Howe pinched, thinking that Marty McSorley couldn't get the puck up to that man, Craig McTavish, and we've seen it again. He is unconscious. What a save.
23 years old. And if you count the games in preseason, this is game 96 for Ron Hextall tonight.
It's a couple, isn't it? Mike, getting back to the point about the defenseman rushing, we've seen Paul Coffey tonight at least 3 times, Ruotsalainen at least 3 times, head it all the way up the ice themselves. They've got great legs. They skate very well. They haven't done it much in the series, and I suspect that that's one of the products of the closed practice that the Oilers had yesterday. No one was allowed in.
Coffey shot! And getting a stick on it, Hextall. Coffey has it once more. Gives off to Wayne Gretzky. Anderson a shot. That hit Huddy in front. And Charlie Huddy gets up and limps toward the bench. Meanwhile, the play made by Ron Sutter for the shorthanded Flyers. 16 minutes to go in the second as Samuelsson forces it back in. Ruotsalainen swirling. Some of the finest hockey players in the world are on the ice right now for the Oilers. Moving in is one of them, Messier. Gives to another Gretzky. Gretzky fires. Blocked in front. Loose puck. Poked wide. And Drilled back down by Brian Propp. A minute 20 to go on the power play. 5 attackers Oilers, 4 defenders Philadelphia. Gretzky drive. Hextall reads. Whips it back away.
Oh. There's the asset that we've seen so many times. The Oilers in the games in this series at the Northlands Coliseum here in Edmonton have done a great job of keeping the puck away from Ron Hextall. That's why. Every time he gets it, he's like another forward or defenseman back there. Oh, look out.
Here is Murray Craven, pursued by Ruotsalainen. Fires, and it's saved by Fuhr. He covers up Stumpy to play.
That wasn't far off from going through the 5-hole, that space right between his legs. He came out to cut down the angle, but Murray Craven got a big shot away that came very close to going between his legs. Watch how far to the net Grant Fuhr comes. See the space in behind him? See how he goes down? There's the space. Whoa. That was his check to see if he had it. At the other end, Ron Hextall doing his magic. He had to go back the wrong way to get that one and make the save.
How would you like to be that cameraman? That's about 95 feet to the floor. And he's looking straight down on Ron Hextall. Play back in. 15 minutes to go. Second period, game tied at 1. 7th game, Stanley Cup Finals. Glad you're with us on ESPN. On with it is Anderson. Crosses. Anderson trickled one in front, and it's reached by McCrimmon and cleared. 25 seconds to go on the power play. Fuhr sets it up for Paul Coffey. Pinching is Poulin. Centers one, but kneeling was Randy Gregg. Messier swirls for Edmonton. Shift change up front, Philadelphia. Final 10 seconds of the power play. Messier moves in, but the Oilers were offside.
And that's just about their last chance to get a shot on the power play. We're down to 8 seconds. And that offside pretty well cut off any chance of scoring on the power play as we look at Wayne Gretzky, the single most dominant athlete in the history of professional sports. Can you imagine 7 Hart trophies consecutively as the most valuable player in the National Hockey League? And people that watch Wayne Gretzky frequently say we can't appreciate him, and we never did until we got to see him a lot. And that's a quote that I remember mostly from Dan Maloney, who coaches the Winnipeg Jets. He said, when I was coaching Toronto in the Norris division, we didn't know that much about Gretzky. We knew he was the greatest, but now that I've seen him more often, I know just how brilliant he is.
Kelly Eklund threw it, but Muni has it on the Oiler defense. Flyers move in, and Tocchet puts a bump on Muni. Meanwhile, it's Kevin Lowe for Marty McSorley. Checked by Tocchet, play to Muni, then ahead to McTavish. Checked by Derek Smith, but he fights his way off. McTavish now forced off by Daigneault, and Derek Smith punches it on ahead to Tocchet. Gives to Eklund. It's a 2-on-2, and now a 3-on-3 as Tocchet fed to Derek Smith, but he had to play at the board. Hunter wants to punch it back out and does. 13:45 left in the second period. In case you're just joining us, this game is tied at 1. Wayne Gretzky along, got a leg on it to direct to McSorley. Just floats one. It'll be chased down by the hero of the 6th game, J.J. Daigneault. It is Coffey handing to Charlie Huddy. And Huddy on the turning stick of Wayne Gretzky. Now to Yari Curry, but the pass was offside. 13:25 left in the second on goals by Craven and Messier in the first period. This one's tied at 1. There are reporters. One team is just a game away from living a dream. Bill, did you pretend it was the 7th game of the Stanley Cup when you were a little guy practicing outside?
Oh, I took it further than that. I think we all did. Well, we all do. I took it to scoring the winning goal. You know, I just wasn't in the game, Mike. That wasn't enough. You had to score the winning goal, too.
Now, did you broadcast it as you did it? Did you talk to yourself?
Absolutely, all the way.
Tikkanen with a pass on to Charlie Huddy. Wedged by Mellanby. And it comes into Mark Howe. Howe's pass is tipped by Gretzky. Gathered in by Yari Curry. On with it is Paul Coffey. Does he get room? No. Tripped up. Play comes ahead to Gretzky. Away from one. Feeds off Tikkanen. And he was dueled all the way by Mark Howe on defense. Puck to Tikkanen. Forehander in front. Sent away by Hextall. Craig with a drive. That one's blocked off on the sacrificial drive of McCrimmon. Back up ice they come now. Flyers try to play one through, but it's punched deep, and Grant Fuhr goes out to handle it to Ruotsalainen. Given away to Ron Sutter, and Ruotsalainen back here. Sinisalo saves Fuhr! Wonderful action. On now comes Gretzky. takes his own pass, but everything stopped because of the offside.
Do you think any play could better fit the description of point blank than the chance that that man, Ilka Sinisalo, just had on Grant Fuhr? He was left all alone because Sutter, here's Ruotsalainen, Sutter intercepts it, and Sutter ends up pulling Ruotsalainen right through with him. Here comes Sinisalo. That's from the hash mark, the inside hash mark. Dead center, point blank. Here's what Grant Fuhr was looking at. Far too much orange and black up close, I'm sure, for Grant Fuhr. What a save. You got to understand that at this stage, too, I'm trying to hit him, too. Grant Fuhr spread so well with his legs. I'm surprised Sinisalo didn't try to go high on him.
Earlier today, we were thinking that maybe we were just too greedy to want a good, close game here after we've seen such excellence. Greed or not, we're getting it. Samuelsson on now to Zezel. Big drive by Zezel. Handled by Fuhr. Turned over to Craig Muni. They work it back along as the Flyers have made a change in personnel again. And this is Kent Nielsen. Nielsen pulls off, gives to Lowe. And Lowe moving in, just chased off and bumped by Craven. Lowe escapes, has a man in front, can't get it to him. And the reason was Brad Marsh, number 8. Samuelsson for Philadelphia lofts one out that is across 2 lines and grabbed by Sinisalo. 11:33 to go, second period, 1-1.
Another overhead look at Grant Fuhr, waiting. Facing Ilka Sinisalo, who had all the time in the world and all the room in the world. Grant won that one. You talked about his style being different than Hextall's, Mike. I guess it's only fitting that their styles be different because their personalities are so different. Mike Keenan has coached Ron Hextall all year. Keep in mind, he's a rookie. We sometimes lose sight of the fact Ron Hextall's a rookie. Mike Keenan says he's as intense as I've coached. And Grant Fuhr is about as relaxed as you can imagine. Tries to sneak around a golf in between games, and see him sitting out in the stands having a cup of coffee before it's time to hit the ice for the warm-up. Both wonderful in their own rights.
Bud keeps the action going so you can enjoy the deciding game of the Stanley Cup Finals. From Coffee, Missouri to McClellan, Iowa, Hunter, Kentucky, Anderson, Alabama, or Curry, Minnesota. Wherever across this great land you're watching the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals, for all you do, this Bud's for you. Eklund wins from McTavish. Play made by Crossman on the Philadelphia defense. Pinching is Charlie Huddy. A whack taken by Prop. The puck taken by Huddy for a drive to top the side of the goal, but a hand pass ruled against Edmonton. And so that again stops things with 11:23 remaining in the second.
There's another man that shaved his beard. I think I mentioned him in the first period. All the Oilers that were growing beards shaved them. And you know, if you're sitting on the Flyers bench, they're saying, guys, we got them on the run. They're panicking. And you try and draw from them every little thing, every little superstition you can. And I'm sure the Flyers are saying, ha, we force them to shave.
Huddy with a pass on up the wing to Hunter. And that one angled. Daniel to play. Away from McSorley. Prop trying for it. Daniel follows up, but here's McTavish moving in. McSorley, rising shot is tipped high by Doug Crossman on defense. McSorley flips off now for Dave Hunter. Crossman right after him. Gives him a couple of brush checks, and a puck turned over to Brian Prop of Philadelphia. Now advancing it is Daniel. Has to try a second time and shuffles off for Eklund, who stood up by McSorley. 10:40 remaining in the second. In case you're just joining us, this is a 1-1 tie. Philadelphia scored first on a 5-on-3 power play. Murray Craven at 1:41 of the first. Mark Messier for Edmonton on a tic-tac-toe passing combination from Anderson to Nielsen at 7:45. And there Grant Fuhr has just answered shot number 17 from a Philadelphia stick. On with it comes Paul Coffey. Feeds over. Backhander by McTavish is saved. McSorley can't punch it home. And a chance by Gregg went off a defenseman. Doug Crossman guides it. Steve Smith keeps it. Wrists one in front, and it's skittered off Hextall and wide. McTavish behind, but it is Doug Crossman for Philadelphia halfway through regulation time of the period in the game. Down goes Prop. Up with it is Randy Gregg. Shuffles off to Teakin and then Gretzky over the blue line. And to prevent an offside, all of the Oilers regroup, and they have. Back in, Gretzky blast is off Crossman and wide. Doug Crossman turning back for Philadelphia. Lays it up the wing for Scott Mellenby. Checked down by Smith. Randy Gregg with a little difficulty handling the puck, but then guides one that is away from Howe.
Boy, it's been a hard game, Mike. Nobody is skating by the tech after they make the pass. They're following through. Everybody's paying the price.
Tikkanen rolls. Brad McCrimmon of Philadelphia takes it. It's swung further by Mellanby and tries to fight his way by Lowe, who doesn't budge. Mark Howe able to get the backhand on that one to prevent the Oilers rushing with it. Gretzky has to dip back for this pass to Muni. Then out for Tikkanen. Some trouble controlling, but feeds over for Yari Curry, who's forced deep again by Scott Mellanby's checking. This is Carson. Mellanby must get back out, or the Flyers would be guilty of offside, and they've done it. But Carson shanked it into Lowe. Just like an arm wrestling contest. One arm forces the other, but ever so slightly. Then it's bent back a little bit. Shift change on, and Derek Smith comes out for Philadelphia, although the pass is through to Gretzky. Gretzky on with Tikkanen. Has him breaking to the net, but the pass trickled through to Derek Smith in Philadelphia. 8.5 left in a tied second period, 1-1. Grant Fuhr watches as Coffey is there to play. Leaping check thrown by Peter Zezel. Puck punch too far for Nielsen. Samuelson rolls. Derek Smith has it. Centers one to Sinisalo. Save! Fuhr! Marvelous in the goal, Grant Fuhr. Can this continue? The score of the game, 1-1.
Series about Grant Fuhr being a reaction goalie, and he has to be ready for all kinds of situations, including situations like that where Ilkka Sinisalo was left all alone to deflect. That's twice now. Sinisalo's got to be talking to himself. Two great chances from in tight on Grant Fuhr that Fuhr has just stoned him on.
Some debris on the ice being tended to. 16 saves on 17 shots. At the other end, it is 23 for 24, Ron Hextall. There you see Finnish-born Ilkka Sinisalo. He's the right winger on this line. Peter Zezel is the center, and the left wing, Derek Smith. The vital statistics you see. We are deadlocked in the series. That's why there's a 7th game, and in this contest it won. Charlie Huddy on for Mike Krushelnyski, his first shift of the night. Hands to Anderson, sized up by Marsh. The drop is to Messier. Flips one that Hextall didn't see but blocked. And the puck bounces off on the pass of Sinisalo, so Zezel applies the shoulder to Charlie Huddy. Messier fights by. Down he goes. Brad Marsh protests, but there'll be a power play coming up to the Oilers. The score of the game, Flyers 1, Oilers 1.
You have to know that every bounce is crucial, every play and every penalty is crucial. Brad Marsh is off for holding. We'll get a chance to see the Oilers power play again. 7:45 to go in the second period. We're tied at 1. Big collision between Charlie Huddy and Peter Zezel. Zezel saw him coming. That's a bowling ball hit. Zezel's 5'9", 200 pounds. There is Marsh hog-tying Mark Messier and flipping him down. And that was the infraction that was called by Andy Van Helleman.
Oilers are 0 for 2 on the night on power plays. 4 for 23 in the series. Power play has been a little mystifying for the Oilers. They haven't been nearly as successful as they're accustomed to. Regular season, they weren't really as strong as they were used to either, so it's been a problem during the course of the year. Anderson wheels in. That one squirted away from him. Nielsen couldn't handle, but it's Huddy. Handing over to Paul Coffey. Fires! Trapped and held by Hextall.
Boy, what an opportunity. The whole side of the Flyers box was non-existent. There was no one there on Coffey's side, but you know what else wasn't there? A screen. Ron Hextall was able to see the shot all the way from Paul Coffey. See if we can figure out how they got twisted around. There are the two Flyer forwards on the left side. They just went out of your picture. Propp and Poulin. That meant that the man at the top of the box, you see them right here. One at the bottom, one at the top right. Those are forwards. They should be at the top of the box. They're not. They're on one side of the box. Coffey has clear access all the way to Hextall, but no screen. No one there to deflect. Right into the breadbasket. Easier save than you would think.
Paul Coffey waiting at the left point, matched up with Charlie Huddy on the right. Messier able to control, though he didn't win the face-off. Messier danced around a couple of times. Now it's to Anderson. Wanted to point it, but keeps it. Anderson gives to Messier, moves to the front, slot, Coffey wide with the shot. And it is Charlie Huddy holding. Then to Nielsen. Duels with Poulin, puck to Huddy. Nielsen once more. Gives it back to Huddy. Draws it back. Save! Hextall hangs on. Crossman and Samuelson were taking care of things in front for Philadelphia.
And they sure were. You notice the difference in the Oilers' power play and a lot of other teams. Some teams like to get a guy in front, blocking and jamming. When the Oilers get the shot through, that's not their style, so they don't have anyone in front for a rebound. Here's the shot. Look at Coffey to the side. Messier is out trying to screen, but nobody is plugging away right in front of Hextall or turning to drive for the rebound. Super slow-mo will show you another look at it. Crossman did a pretty nice job on Anderson, but Anderson really didn't put his nose down and dig for that rebound on Hextall.
Ron Hextall with that customary clanking of his stick on the pipe. When Philadelphia first won their championship in 1974, Ron Hextall was in grade 4. You can imagine him banging his pencil on the side of his desk.
As a matter of fact, I was on that Flyers team, and we knocked out the Atlanta Flames in the quarterfinals. Ron Hextall's dad, Brian, played for the Flames. We were talking about it tonight. Asked him how his son slept last night. He said he slept fine. My wife couldn't sleep. Ron was staying with his folks last night. My wife was up at 3 a.m. having a bubble bath. She couldn't sleep.
Crossman is in. Checked by Huddy. We get a stoppage of play as Ron Finn signals the puck had been played by a high stick. Ron Finn, one of the 2 linesmen working in the game tonight. Faceoff will remain in the Philadelphia defensive zone with 56 seconds now to go on the power play to Edmonton.
No, Doug Crossman had something interesting to say about playing in Philadelphia. He says, when I played in Chicago, the only guy I met that played on the Stanley Cup winner was Stan Mikita, and I met him in a golf tournament. Here, I see Bobby Clark all the time, Bill Barber, Bernie Perrance, an assistant coach. So we draw on that tradition. We can dip into that well of tradition that's there in Philadelphia. And I think to a man, the Flyers would admit that having that tradition and the actual players around that played on those championship teams with the same attitude that they had when they won is really a big, big asset to be able to draw from at this time of year.
That's what Jay and Ed Snyder had to be thinking when they brought a dozen more from that team along for this trip.
Yep.
50 seconds to go on the power play now as they work it back to Coffey. He's got a man open. That's Charlie Huddy. Gives back to Coffey. And Coffey for Huddy. Off Sutter. Pumped in front. Messier took a swing. Couldn't get it. It's back to Coffey. A shot. Deflected wide. Still they work for it, and it's Glenn Anderson rolling it along to Gretzky. Coffey breaks. Puck swept away. Then a second flex by Hextall. Driven wide by Gretzky. Furious action here. 22 seconds to go power play. Paul Coffey gives to Gretzky. Looks it over. Broken up as his pass was stolen by Ron Sutter. And Sutter is all alone, though Crossman trying to fight his way along. That one just walked away by Grant Pure. Oh, and a booming check thrown on Ron Sutter by Anderson, and Sutter retaliates not once but twice. Here is Sutter. Checked by Charlie Huddy. Held to the boards. Stoppage of play.
I'm sure Anderson is wondering where Andy Van Hellemond went. It was a crushing hit. Sutter was on his knees, and then Sutter retaliated a couple of times. Getting to be a pretty tense situation. There's Ron Hextall limping off, it looks. Another picture of the action in front of Ron Hextall. Samuelson 28 taking out Anderson 9. Remember, they had the big feud going in Game 6 in Philadelphia and have been at each other pretty well for this whole series when Samuelson has played. Saw Messier knock it down, but it bounced over his stick. He was just taking a swing at it. Boy, they were under the gun. When you're out there killing a penalty, you see it all collapsing and you realize you're clinging by a thread. Sometimes you cling and you get it back and you get it down the ice, and other times it ends up collapsing in the form of a goal. That time, the Flyers were able to hang on.
Marty McSorley tried to work it out, and it squirted further where Mark Howe can play. The son of the legendary Gordie Howe. To Krop and then on to Tocchet. Finesses for Eklund. Spins it up the wing, and a drive is high off Pure by defenseman Brad McCrimmon. Puck taken by Tocchet. Tries to roll it along, but it is Steve Smith on to McSorley. Then back to Steve Smith. Alley open, plays up the wing, but the play was offside, stopping the clock with 5:13 left in period 2.
There's the man that went offside, but we can't fault Dave Hunter. Boy, at this stage of the game, at this stage of the season, those offsides are so key. That time Smith made a little maneuver to the left at the blue line. That's what threw Dave Hunter offside. Super slow-mo of Grant Pure's last save on Brad McCrimmon. What a great feed by Eklund. I'm really impressed at the way that the players seem to be in control of themselves and playing within themselves. The jitters are gone. Acrobatic tight save, although he lands on his feet. But everybody seems in control. Eklund, who should make the big pass, is making the big pass. Gretzky's had a couple of routine passes snared, but he seems to be on top of his game. We've settled into a classic 7th game.
The man charged with trying to win the faceoff away from Wayne Gretzky will be Peter Zezel. Curry on the right of Gretzky, Tikkanen on the left. A prolific unit for Edmonton, to say the least, during the regular season, though it has gone sour on Tikkanen here in series 2, 3, and 4. Curry a shot, he scores!
What a transition from receiving the pass to turning and getting rid of the shot. Let's see what happens in the corner. There's Crossman with Tikkanen chasing. And Tikkanen runs him off the play. Gretzky to Jari Kurri, and before anyone can get to him, he does the transition. What a pass by Gretzky. Derek Smith can't get to him. So for the 7th consecutive game, all in this series, Jari Kurri and Wayne Gretzky pick up points.
Rousing ovation. So the script has changed. Philadelphia got ahead in the game, and Edmonton came back to not only tie, but now to go ahead. 4:45 left in the second. Gretzky getting the lone assist on the goal. McCrimmon a shot that's wide. Hops off Fuhr. Carson tries to feed. Howe able to keep. Wedges one that is snared by a leaping Grant Fuhr, and he'll hold on.
And he makes the relay to second base. What a shortstop-like move. Up in the air. You know who, I'm not even sure whether Tikkanen will get an assist on the goal. I haven't seen the official yet. But what a play he made, bumping Doug Crossman off the puck so that Jari Kurri could score. And we mentioned, Mike, you mentioned earlier, Tikkanen, here he comes. Tikkanen doesn't have a point in 12 games. And that's playing left wing. There he is, number 10, banging Doug Crossman off the puck. Wayne Gretzky anticipates well. You got to feel that there's a breakdown on the Flyers' part. When you see 3 orange jerseys standing there watching 1 white one shoot, there's a problem. Here's the Fuhr save. Up high.
Now that equipment he's wearing weighs about 35 pounds.
It'd be nice to tell a story that he could dunk a basketball even dressed in that equipment. Stretching the truth a little bit. But his agility, I think it can be compared with the agility of just about anyone in any sport.
Curry from Gretzky at 14:59. Curry's 5th of the series, 15th of the playoffs. And that has broken the deadlock of 1-1. It is Anderson feeding in front. Messier. Oh, and Hextall got a piece of the shot. Muni hit by Samuelson. Healing off with it now for the Oilers and being hit Krushelnyski. Muni spins one that went off Samuelson and wide. Rebound still tested for in front. Messier, oh, and a bad angle shot went wide. Low, zoomed off by Sinisalo, and Messier really knocked flying the Flyer across the way, who gets up to have something to say about it, Rick Tocchet.
And I think Andy Van Hellemon's going to call a penalty. It certainly was delayed. He never put his arm up, and there's no question that Craven was smashed into the boards and that a boarding penalty could have been called. Watch this. Boy, cross-checking, you call it whatever you want it. And Andy Van Hellemon did call it. That's an appropriate call. Messier just buried him. I know that referees and the officials don't want to be really involved in the outcome, but in a situation like that, Andy Van Hellemon has to make the call, and he did. Mike, you know the thing that's impressed me most in this whole series about Grant Fuhr and Ron Hextall? When they've been scored on, and even when it hasn't been a picture-perfect goal. Let's take that last one that Jari Kurri just scored. He comes back and makes a save like this one. They have never had 2 goals scored on them, one after the other, without a huge save in between. I'm not sure whether he got a piece of that one or not. It looks like he did. But they've always rallied. They've never crumbled, and they've always put up the brick wall as soon as one has gone by them.
The penalty to Messier is a charge. It comes at 16:02 and gives Philadelphia its 3rd power play attempt on the night.
So easy when you're skating. I know what's going through Messier's mind. He sees Murray Craven vulnerable. Let's face it, we're in the 7th game. You want to start banging people right out of the contest. So he sees Murray Craven, vulnerable position, facing the boards, and he nails them. But Glenn Sather said it best before the game, said every player worth his salt has to be able to control his emotions. And it remains to be seen that that was an emotional penalty. You've got to be thinking at all times out there.
Murray Craven playing in this game with a broken foot. As on now comes Mark Howe. Hooked at by Muni. Howe hooked at by Muni again. Still battling. Taken by McTavish, but Eklund right there. That one flopped out of play. In case you're new to this series, we'll tell you that Philadelphia, according to their coach tonight, has 5 players in the lineup who in the regular season would not be playing because of injury. They're playing despite it. And it's been the Philadelphia story that they've had nothing but injuries, and Edmonton not even a pimple.
And there's one of the players who was injured earlier, had a Charlie horse. And you know what was strange? The day before he was injured, I was talking to Mark Howe, and he said, you know, I can't stand being injured. I come to the building and I get my treatments at the rink and I go home right away because I can't stand being around the guys. It's as if I'm letting them down. There's so much pressure. I want to be there, and I just feel as if I'm not performing when I should be performing. Lo and behold, he had to get to Charlie horse the next night. Luckily, he was able to play. He was on the limp, but he played.
Gretzky on to McTavish, taken out by Howe. Mark Howe really got a break in coming back for that second game because there was a 3-day layoff between 1 and 2. Eklund for Prop, and he dumped the shot, and Coffey tries to clear. And it is at the blue line outside. And so offside is called. The puck must be all the way over the blue line. And then if it's brought back in as it was, offside stops the clock, and they face off at center ice.
Ron Finn had a good look at it, but it was close. That was either just outside or most of the way out. Very, very close.
When Philadelphia won its first cup, Mark Howe, that was back in '74, was a Rookie of the Year in the WHA with the Houston Aeros.
What a splendid career he's had. 6 seasons in the World Hockey Association, 8 seasons in the NHL, 14 years of pro hockey, and if I'm not mistaken, just a couple of days ago, he turned 31. And he scored over 1,000 points in his pro career, just about even, around 508 or 10 in the World Hockey and about the same in the NHL. Sometimes he goes unnoticed, but with those kind of numbers, he's headed for the Hall of Fame.
Eklund and McTavish just lays it back. 1:15 to go in the Philadelphia power play. 3:10 left in the second period. Oilers leading the Flyers here 2-1. Coffey rolls, Howe kicks. And it is fed by Nielsen, cut off by Prop, but given up to Paul Coffey of the Oilers. Another one flipped out of play. And Andy Van Hellemond indicates outside the Oiler defensive zone is where they'll drop it. Here's a guy who was in a 7th game of a Southern League playoff series for the Roanoke Valley Rebels and scored the winner.
It was against Winston-Salem, wasn't it?
In overtime.
A bugging right winger, Mike Keenan. He was pretty loose last night. The whole Flyers team was. They did not skate this morning. They all went out to dinner last night and kind of hooped it up and had a good time. They were a very loose hockey team. That tells you the difference in these two teams. The Oilers closed practice yesterday. The Flyers actually did relay races using the sticks as batons. Show you how loose one team was, and who knows how loose the Oilers were, but we can only guess. And we tried to talk to some of them after the game. They were a closed-mouthed, tight-lipped bunch of guys.
Rattled and upset.
Yep.
On now Crossman. Play made through to Craven, but he loses. 40 seconds left power play. They can't clear. Ryan Prop taps in deep, then throws a high one on Muni. Puck cleared. Mark Howe trying to hold. Wrestles with Hunter. And Prop has to go back to help out. Flyers are back on side. Puck flipped by Tocchet. Misses for Craven. Slugged away by Muni. Cleared by McTavish. Every solid Oiler play met by one of the loudest cheers of the year. 12 seconds to go on the Philadelphia power play. Sinisalo has Howe moving in front. The shot tipped wide by Gregg. 2-on-1. Gretzky and Curry with Samuelson back. For Curry, and he shanked it wide. And a big O from the crowd. And a relieved sigh at the Philadelphia bench. Mark Messier, as the penalty time has been killed off. Teams at even strength. 1:40 to go as Messier rushes. Gretzky fires past stop Hextall. Clock stopped with 1:37 to go. The score still is 2-1 Edmonton.
What a chance. That could have been the breathing room. With the breathing room the Oilers need, and with every chance, they're saying Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup. This is it. Curry came way deep and then cut in for the net. I'm not sure Samuelson got a piece of that. You know what happens sometimes? You'll shoot it, and you'll end up going through the puck with your stick, and on your own recoil, if the puck is bouncing, you'll pull it back with your own stick. It's kind of a freaky thing. but Wayne Gretzky was looking past. It appeared all the way. Both Samuelson and Hextall read it pretty well.
Big defenseman who was part of a mid-year trade, which took a goaltender named Bob Froese from Philadelphia to the New York Rangers. Sinisato forces off Coffey. Play made by Messier to Charlie Huddy with 90 seconds to go in the second period. Play made through to Kent Nielsen. Nielsen in front, and it's swept away by Hextall as Brad Marsh caught up to him and really denied Nielsen much of a chance. Ron Sutter on. Heels off, Coffey punches it away. Sutter regains. Then to Samuelson, but they've got to play at center ice. This one dumped along, and Sutter takes a man down. Nielsen follows up on the wing to Charlie Huddy. Huddy across. There's Anderson, blocked by Hextall. Bluffed along by Samuelson on the Philadelphia defense, and Anderson trying to jam it away. But it's Ron Sutter with 50 seconds to play in this middle period. Has Lindsey Carson ahead. Moves it over for Brad Marsh. Back cross ice, and Carson in what appeared a broken play. Jams one, but into Esa Tikkanen of the Oilers, who advances it to Gregg. Then along for Nielsen, but it's retrieved by McCrimmon. Striding for it is Al, bumps with Smith. But again, it's Hextall's play to make. 6 shots, Philadelphia in this period. Oilers 13. Kevin Lowe back for an icing touch-up. And one of the rare icings in this game will bring the face-off back near Hextall.
Every one-on-one so intense. Every time you see two players come together, try and watch closely, and you'll see the energy that's being expended. Nobody is taking the easy way out. They can't. There are no shortcuts to winning the Stanley Cup now. It's the team that wants it the most. Oh, a break would certainly mean something. Brad Marsh, great defensive play. He just gets his stick around Nielsen, gets the crab claw around him. Nielsen cuts over to try and brush in front of him. Nielsen makes the right play, so does Marsh. See the stick? Up under Nielsen's the long reach. Hextall steering it to the corner.
Here's the Hextall banging the pipes again. Puck back to Craig Muni, but Hextall will take this one himself. Rips it back off the glass. It misses McTavish. Off Muni, they still poke away at it, and it is Craven able to throw back out. 5 seconds left in the period. Hunter with the last throw, the last bounce off the boards. As the siren goes, we're at the end of 2. The Edmonton Oilers 2. The Philadelphia Flyers 1. A lot coming up for you between periods. Don't go away.
I think you'd have to say the Stanley Cup is still up for grabs, even though the Edmonton Oilers have a lead. It's the barest of margins, 2-1. Curry from Gretzky, the only marker on the score sheet in that second period. Tim Kerr, of course, is not playing tonight, but his wife and other Flyer wives are watching tonight from Tim Kerr's household in South Jersey. Here's Mike Ford.
Thank you, Tom. You're watching the game here from Kathy Kerr's house, Tim Kerr's wife, and most of the Flyer wives and fiancés are here watching the game. Sitting right off here with me is Patty Marsh. Patty, how important is this game for you, for Brad to win this thing?
Well, I don't want to say it's the most important game of his career, but I'm sure he's really excited about this one, and I don't think he wanted anything more.
And how nervous are you?
I'm more nervous than I could tell you.
Okay, and as I said, not all the women here are married to Flyers. Some of them will be married to Flyers. Murray Craven scored the Flyer goal in the first period, and his fiancée is Sherry Lefevre, is it?
Yeah.
Sherry, how excited were you when Murray put that one in the net?
You're probably glad the camera wasn't on me, because you would have thought I was a little weird. Probably more excited than most people that were here.
How important is this win for you, or this game to become a win for the Flyers?
Well, it's pretty exciting. I mean, lots of the guys are so young, and to win something like this, I mean, most guys wait like a lot of years before they win it. And for Murray, because he's so young, he's really excited, and it kind of rubs off on me, and I'm really excited about it too.
Okay, I'll let you get back to watching the game now. As a matter of fact, Tom, I'm going to let you get back and do your job. We're here at Kathy Kerr's house in Voorhees, New Jersey, and we'll talk to you a little bit later this evening.
All right, Mike Forrest, the hockey players' wives, sometimes the forgotten people in all this. All they can do is sit there and watch. They can't really do anything about it, and sometimes that's harder than being on the ice and pursuing the Stanley Cup. After 2 periods, Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. We'll be back with a look at some of the key statistics from the second period of play in just a moment. Stanley Cup will come to an end tonight, and the Edmonton Oilers right now have a very slim upper hand after 2 periods on their home ice. They lead the Philadelphia Flyers 2-1. Again, Curry from Gretzky at 14:59, the only goal of that second period of play. Let's take a look now at some of the key numbers, key statistics, if you will, from the second period. It was definitely an Edmonton Oiler period as far as territorial play goes, and the shots and quality shots reflect that. A 2-1 margin, or actually better than that in total shots on goal. Quality shots 2-1 in favor of the Oilers. They've also controlled the face-offs at a better than 2-1 margin. They have more offsides, but that's because they were rushing the puck into the Flyers zone, and when it's like a fast-breaking basketball team, and you make that many rushes up the ice, you're going to have a chance of more offsides. The hits are about even. The turnovers, well, again, the Oilers playing that wide-open style that has made them famous. Sometimes when you do that, you're going to have more turnovers result, but Edmonton will take it. They have a 2-1 lead after 2 periods for Edmonton. The way they look at it, 20 more minutes to the Stanley Cup. The Flyers are just glad to be here. They got to get the next goal. I think that's the way they're looking at things. I'll be back with the Coca-Cola scoreboard in just a moment. Time for the Coke Classic scoreboard, brought to you by the Coca-Cola Company and the bottlers of Coca-Cola Classic. Yes, it's red, white, and you. Well, only one goal, as we've told you, in that second period of play. It was Jari Kurri from Wayne Gretzky at 14:59. Here's how it came about. Flyers' Doug Crossman is bumped off the puck very nicely by Asa Tikkanen. Over to Wayne Gretzky, who hits Jari Kurri, and he snaps one just inside the far post that beats Ron Hextall. That was the overhead view. Here's how it looked from ground level. Kurri gets away that quick wrist shot, and Hextall really didn't have a chance on it, maybe a partial screen. Now look at Ron Hextall come up big against Craig McTavish. Now this was just moments after the go-ahead goal, and you don't want to give up the Oilers 2 or 3 goals in a row. That's their trademark. And look at this stick save on the ice, having the presence of mind as we look at it in our super slow-mo action there, to put the stick flush with the ice and to stop that drive by Craig McTavish. So it is still anybody's hockey game, indeed, still anybody's Stanley Cup. That's it for this edition of the Coca-Cola scoreboard, brought to you by the bottlers of Coca-Cola in your area. Coca-Cola Classic. It's red, white, and you. And we'll be back checking in with Mike Forrest live at Kaminsky's Ale House in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Flyer country. We'll see how that's a very exciting night so far through 2 periods of this final game for the Stanley Cup here at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, but just about 2,600 miles away at Kaminsky's Ale House in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, right across the river from Philadelphia. It's also been rather loud and exciting at Kaminsky's Ale House. Here is our live reporter, Mike Forrest.
Thank you, Tom. It has been loud. It has been raucous. As you can hear, it is loud, it is raucous. I've got to know these people very well because they've jammed as many people into this building as humanly possible. They've got 300-400 people in here. They've had to shut the doors. No one else can get in. At this point, I think the feeling inside the building seems to be the Flyers have Edmonton right where they want them. Down 1, going into the 3rd period. Let's see if we can interrupt some of the revelry here and talk to some of these people. Come over here first. The Flyers have Edmonton right where they want them, do you think?
Oh, yeah, they've been down, they've been up. They got them right where they want them. We haven't had a parade here in 12 years. 12 years.
Now, if the Flyers could hear that in Edmonton, they'd get a big boost. What about you? The Flyers, can they come back one more time? They've had to do it so often in this series.
Ronnie Sutter's back, and he's going to score, and we'll be back. We're here.
This is a crowd that obviously loves its Flyers. Again, we told you at the top of the show, the Flyer practice rink is only 4 or 5 miles away. So this is definitely Flyer country. They're not going to give up. They're going to stay with the Flyers all the way, the end of the game, and they hope a victory parade tomorrow if the Flyers can pull off yet another miracle. Let's go back to Edmonton and Tom Eaves.
Ah, yes, the relative tranquility of our Stanley Cup studios here in Edmonton. Mike, I hope you can get out of that place alive. You're doing a nice job, and so is Edmonton. They lead this game 2-1 after 2. And the road to the Stanley Cup is being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you, and I feel safe to say those Flyer fans in New Jersey have downed a few Budweisers tonight, no doubt about that, as they try and root their team on. And the roar is now beginning to build at Northlands Coliseum as the Edmonton Oilers are taking the ice. They're faithful, hoping that the next 20 minutes will be all the hockey that's needed to play and that their heroes will claim their 3rd Stanley Cup in 4 years. The Flyers, of course, having other thoughts, trying to get their 1st cup in 12 years. Now let's go upstairs to the Northlands Coliseum for the 3rd period Here's Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Thank you, Tom. There were 13 Oilers shots in the second period. One of them got in, and that was Jari Kurri. His 15th of the playoffs and 5th of this series. The lone assist, Wayne Gretzky at 14:59. Two-period totals are 31-18. Bill, 20 minutes, perhaps more to go, but it's the old saw. How do you protect a lead?
I think that's a question the Edmonton Oilers have been asking themselves, especially after games 5 and 6. They had the lead. They had 2-goal leads in both of those games and weren't able to hold them. And you know what's different about tonight? We're down to 20 minutes. They're not only protecting a lead, Mike, they're protecting the Stanley Cup. And that becomes a very big problem when you think about it that way. If they go into a shell, which means just continually dumping it out, not trying to generate any offense, you know the Flyers are always going to be coming at them and creating their own scoring opportunities. The Oilers tried that in games 5 and 6. It did not work. I suspect they worked on that in their closed practice the last couple of days. And we'll see them perhaps generating an offense, perhaps not being as conservative as we might think they'd be. 2-1, that's not a big lead against the Flyers, and they know it.
The big guns in this series, Wayne Gretzky, Brian Propp, Mark Messier. You see the impressive point totals. Now these are overall in the playoffs, but Gretzky, Propp, and also Jari Kurri have been the top 3 in this series. If you turn the hands of clock back 2 years to when these two teams met for the Stanley Cup Finals, it was Gretzky, Coffey, and Kurri.
Still some familiar names up there. Messier is up there. Anderson's up there. Some of the best in the world right here.
And you see Dennis Savard, clever little centerman from the Chicago Blackhawks, was also one of the top 6. But the big stats now, 2 Edmonton, 1 Philadelphia. This may be the last period. Nielsen moves in for the Oilers, jamming it along, and it is over to his line mate, Glenn Anderson. Off the stick of Mark Messier. And Brad Marsh connects with Samuelson. Off Anderson. Following up is Sinisalo, but low right there, and gets help from Pure to turn to Nielsen. Along now to Messier, but pinching is Brad Marsh of Philadelphia. And a giveaway that Zezel fires in a sprawling play made by Kevin Lowe. Outlet pass goes right through Nielsen, and Ron Hextall, the Philadelphia goalkeeper, just slugs it back onto Sinisalo. Then along for Zezel, took the high hit from McTavish. Brad Marsh to take it with Tom Nees and Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich from the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals. It's been a great one here tonight, and the whole series has been. If this is the first game you're seeing, just multiply what you've seen times 6. Play made, but by Eklund. It's retrieved by Charlie Huddy. Propp on back to Howe. A little bit of a feeling out period, it seems, here at the start of the third. 1 minute and 15 seconds gone. Hunter has it knocked away by Tocchet and sent further by Pelle Eklund. But Huddy turns right there to get it. You like pitchers' battles? This is what we're seeing in hockey. McTavish, backhander, hit the side of the goal. Turnarounder is through the crease wide. Eklund slides it back down. There have been home run derbies in the playoffs, but none in this series. It has been Grant Pure at one end, Ron Hextall at the other. This is Teagan in a drive off Hextall. And gathered in by Carson. On to Mellenby. Nicely gets by Kurri. As it poke-checked away on defense, though, by Randy Gregg. And this is Gretzky drive. Sealed off by Hextall. Buck pokes into Shell Samuelson. Gretzky right back to test him again. But the play made by Ron Sutter. Out in front to Marsh. And Marsh outlets it for Philadelphia. Moving ahead is Lindsey Carson. Carson with a pick set moves in further. But it is Randy Gregg to take over. Just jams it off an uneven piece of the boards, and Pure comes out to freeze the puck. The score of the game remains. The Oilers 2 and the Flyers 1.
Right now, Ford has a great value story for you on the Ford Escort, the world's best-selling car. You can now get 3.9% financing or $600 cash back. Combine the cash back with an option package discount and save up to $1,294 on the popular Escort. And Ford is also offering special values on Taurus and Tempo. Take advantage of these savings now. See your Ford dealer soon. Have you driven a Ford lately?
A look at the Edmonton Oilers bench. Without a helmet, Craig McTavish just had a good scoring opportunity on Ron Hextall. Here he comes. on a sharp angle. You see the puck bounce up on edge and then sit back down. Went through Hextall's legs off the side of the net.
It is Mike Krushelnyski for Edmonton. That one knocked down by Anderson, brought in by Mark Messier. Just lays it in deep, and it's Hextall controlling for Philadelphia. But keeps the action going so you can enjoy this deciding game of the Stanley Cup Finals. Howe, Idaho, Carson, Mississippi, Stanley, New York, Marshfield, Missouri, or Sutter, California, anywhere across this great land you're watching tonight's game. We hope you're enjoying it. We sure are. And for all you do, this bud's for you.
What a gutsy playoff year Dave Poulin has had with his broken ribs, wearing the flak jacket that he threw all the way out west of, I believe, the San Francisco area to have it custom made. Came back in the 7th game of the Islanders series only to aggravate his ribs, but to play such a huge role in that one period where he picked up 2 key assists, and the Flyers went on to defeat the Islanders in the 7th game. It's been a year full of grit for the Flyers. All kinds of injuries. They led the league in man games lost to injuries. Somehow they fought their way all the way here to the 7th game.
Ruotsalainen rolls. Hextall plays. Flips it along, hoping for Zezel. It rolled off Derek Smith's stick. And it is Ruotsalainen once more for the Oilers. 17 minutes to go, 3rd period. The Oilers have outshot the Flyers 33-18, have a narrow lead 2-1. Kent Nielsen controlling, surrounded by Flyers, but it's Randy Gregg moving in, and the shot into Hextall. He covers.
Well, he had lots of protection around him that time. Kjell Samuelsson was standing there. Zezel was looking out for him. It's one thing to get that shot in on him like Randy Gregg just did, but the Oilers haven't capitalized on anything even close to a rebound. Here's Anderson up to Nielsen, who pulls it in. Crosses the line, taking all kinds of lumber from Scott Mellenby. Well, you see the traffic and the concentration. Now watch Gregg's shot. You won't see any Oilers anywhere near the net for the rebound. Gregg has a chance to line it up. There's the shot that will drop down. No one is there. All there is orange and black around him.
Hextall peers out at the face-off that is won by the Oilers. Gregg, a drive, hits the goal post. And Anderson spins one in front. It hit off Nielsen and went wide. Messier hoisted off by Ron Sutter. And again, the Oilers hear the clank of iron. Ruotsalainen going back to gather it in for Edmonton. Double forechecking now for Philadelphia. And that one rolled through Brad McCrimmon down.
Same kind of deal, Mike. The Oilers have to be wondering, shaking their heads. That's 2 posts they've hit. It's got to be a deja vu situation for them after games 5 and 6. They can't put them away. They can't put the Flyers away. They're still only ahead by 1. You know that the Oilers are sitting there, if not literally, figuratively biting their nails, saying, what are we going to do to get one by this guy? We should have blown them out in 2 periods, in the first period of game 5 and the first period of game 6. And if things aren't bad enough with Hextall stopping it, they're banking in off the post, or at least out off the post. They're not going in. Boy, when you're hot, you're hot. And he's getting help from his posts, help from everywhere.
Murray Craven of Philadelphia, as we watch this one go sailing through again.
That's the one, and it was so close to going in that it actually came out between Hextall and the other post.
Murray Craven of Philadelphia was asked, how many times can you do this? How many times can you come from behind and beat the Oilers? He said 4. I think we can do it 4 times. We'll see. They've done it 3. Series tied at 3, but the Oilers leading 2-1 and now an even 16 minutes to go. McCrimmon rolls. Coffey sends one in front that went by Hunter. Puck taken by Mark Howe. Directed further by Brian Propp of Philadelphia, but gathered in by McSorley. Pivoting away, Marty McSorley. Gets away from McCrimmon. Crosses, but is checked off by Howe.
Good play by McSorley. You know, Mike, that's the kind of play where 9 times out of 10 in another game, McSorley might have just dumped it in. He went for it and almost had a good scoring chance.
McTavish down, shoveled it wide. Brad Marsh along. Stoppage of play, and now McTavish and Hextall roughing it up in the goal crease.
Look at Andy Van Hellemond. He went right in and ripped the net right off his post. What a great move. Van Hellemond knew that his officials, his linesmen, couldn't get in there. Ron Finn couldn't get in there. D'Amico couldn't get in. So what did Van Hellemond do? He went and ripped the net right off its mooring so that they could get in from behind. Boy, McTavish was just getting it from Hextall, though, when he was down. Here's a look at it. McTavish going in. Now, that should be a penalty, and I got a feeling that Andy Van Hellemond might have been looking to call that one. You can see that Hextall came right down on McTavish immediately, and he doesn't stop here. He's giving it to him. like he's got him against the turnbuckle and he pulled something out of his trunks. Here's the collision, and Hextall starts with the left hand. He eventually gets rid of his stick and starts drilling him with the right hand. McCrimmon moves in. There it is. There's the right hand going at it.
Looked as though McTavish was holding on. And
there's the net. Andy Van Hellemond pulled it right off.
Peace restored for now. 15:29 left in the third. Oilers 2, Flyers 1.
Did you love those when you were little?
Peppermint Lifesavers?
Yeah.
Mike, you and I have been sitting here having a difference of opinion. You were saying that...
Well, it looked like Hextall was being held and he wanted to get back up to continue play. But what did you see?
Well, I'm maintaining that right now McTavish is clinging to his life. We saw what happened to Kevin Lowe when he scored a goal and got in tight. I mean, that's no place to end up caught up with Ron Hextall. So in my mind, McTavish is trying to protect himself by getting in close.
John Ziegler, the president of the National Hockey League, and on the right, and Brian O'Neill, the executive vice president of the league, on the left. Some debris tossed on the ice and some liquid as well that has to be taken care of. There are some penalty calls, but we've not gotten the announcements yet. Mike Keenan, you just saw, waiting with interest to hear what the decision of Andy Van Hellemond will be. The score remains 2-1 Oilers.
Here's a look at the rush that started the fracas in Ron Hextall's crease. McCrimmon dives for the puck. Notice he does not get the puck, but he takes down Craig McTavish. And perhaps it was the shot that Craig McTavish got away that turned Andy Van Hellemond against calling the penalty on Brad McCrimmon. You'll probably never know.
There are 2 Flyers in the penalty box. There are 2 Oilers. There are no penalties up on the board, so we're assuming cancellation, as just now they're being announced. Roughing to all. McTavish, McSorley, Hextall, Tocchet.
You got to be a pretty tough guy to get 2 minutes for roughing when you're lying on your back with Ron Hextall pummeling you with both hands, don't you? 2 minutes for receiving. Craig McTavish gets.
Now, neither team, because of those penalties, are short in manpower on the ice. It's full complement of skaters for both. And we have 15:22 to go. Tikkanen rolls. Gretzky is there. Centers for Curry. Howe back off for Mellanby. Hit hard by Kevin Lowe.
He had a score to settle. Mellanby had really roughed up Kevin Lowe in front of the Flyers bench.
It is Hextall whipping it back over to Howe. And Howe run off the play by Tikkanen after he released that one down. Mellanby back and Lowe there. And we get a stoppage of play on an offside pass. Both teams are really warming and heating up in temperament now. It's something that we didn't see before.
It has to be controlled, though. Boy, we're down to the short stroke. 14:58. Oilers ahead by 1. Third period, game 7. And as much as the tempers heat up, everyone's head has to overrule their heart at this stage of the hockey season. You can't get any further than this. You know, Bernie Perrant was saying to Mike Keenan before game 6, we were all sitting around chatting. Bernie walked in and said, Mike, you know what you have to tell the players? You're 2 games away from winning the Stanley Cup. Lo and behold, the Flyers win game 6. Here they are at game 7. I'm sure Mike said, guys, you're 1 game away. Now both teams are less than 15 minutes away. The Oilers have the lead.
Sinisalo nudges ahead for Brian Propp. Messier puts the wedge on him. He and Propp continue. And Messier reached out and just flexed that one along to Kent Nielsen. 14:35 to go in the third. Oilers outgunning the Flyers. They lead in the game 2-1, have outshot them 34-18. Anderson wraps. Messier there. Samuelson and Messier came up high and hard on him. Anderson cranks one, and that went off Brad Marsh and into the seats. And how many times in these last 8 weeks has Brad Marsh been in front of a shot?
Lots. Ron Hextall just gave him a big swat in the seat of the pants with his stick. For a second there, it took me back to the slashing game when Ron Hextall leveled Ken Nielsen. He wound up, but it turned out to be a a tap of affection on Brad Marsh, and Brad Marsh turned around. You know, Brad Marsh gets along with every goalie that he's ever played with, and I played with Brad. He is such a player's player and a defensive player that there isn't a goalie that's ever played behind Brad Marsh who didn't respect the way he played. And as a penalty killer when I played, I respected the way Brad Marsh played as well, because he was such a giver. He just would do virtually anything that had to be done in a defensive capacity to try and save a hockey game. Throw his face in front of the shot, his legs, his feet, it didn't matter.
The discipline from the Flyers standpoint, 14:21 to go and they're behind by 1, is not to do something foolish that's going to give Edmonton a power play. What about the Oilers?
Well, they have to be of the same mentality. Control. How many times have we talked about the things the Oilers have acquired in the playoffs that they never had before? Patience and discipline. Once again, the test of patience and discipline is going to come right at the Oilers.
Crossman angles. Charlie Huddy there to take it. Gives it up, though, to Craven. Rolls it along for Mellanby. But it trickled through as he was chased off by Coffey. Huddy given a hit, but directs to Gretzky, and out it comes to Tikkanen. They're 2-on-2, and Tikkanen's drive hit the goal post. That's the third one. Peter Zezel pivoting. And flips back out for Mellanby. Shovels off for Brad Marsh.
Mike, if I'm one of the Oilers, now I'm really worried. All the chances they've had, they haven't been able to widen the lead. They have to be sitting there saying, oh no, is it going to happen again?
They want to let Gretzky take because that brings a whistle. And the faceoff will be well outside the Flyers zone.
There's the man that hit the post, picked up his first point tonight at 12 to play.
I agree. Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I think it's shaking.
Yeah, but he knows the camera's on him. Here it is. He cranks it up from just inside the blue line. Oh, boy, they've got to be shaking their heads. You know, Hextall is way out to cut down the angle. That tells you what a fine line Tikkanen's shot was going for. There's not much room on that side of Ron Hextall, and he dinged it right off the post. Great blast.
I couldn't say anything and finish, though. Young man from Helsinki has nearly gotten his first goal in 3 series, but there have been 3 nearlies, and if you count Curry on the 2-on-1 breakaway shanking the shot, perhaps being defended off by Samuelson, that's 4 great close opportunities. 3 off post and 1 not converted. Here is Lowe. Tries to wrap around for Nielsen. High drive, and that one sailed into the seats. 13:20 to go in this third period. With Tom Nees and Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich from the Northlands Coliseum, Edmonton, Alberta. Beautiful weather outside today, 65 degrees and sunny. Inside, tension, also enthusiasm for this Oilers team that at one time had the Flyers where they wanted them, 3-1, but couldn't put them away.
They had them where they wanted them, even more than that, didn't they? In game 5, 6, they had them right where they wanted them. But then it got so ridiculous to turn around as a lot of people were walking around saying, well, the Flyers have them right where they want them now. And perhaps that's what some people are saying now, because the Oilers are leading the Flyers, and they just have not been able to hang on to it in the third period.
Flyers team using a rookie goaltender whose first game was against Edmonton on opening night, and he won it 2-1. Gave up the first shot on goal for a goal and stopped the next 21 to win. Who'd have thought then that it would have gone this far? McCrimmon a shot. Blocking it with the butterfly move was Fuhr. Around now to Mike Krushelnyski. Outlets for Anderson, but it's quickly to Mark Houstick, then to McCrimmon. Turning it to Sinisalo, and back again McCrimmon and Nielsen. Darts right after him to force his hand. It's Zezel, crunched by Anderson, but the play made to Carson. But the result of the Anderson check breaks this Flyer play down.
That's some pretty good neutral pressure by the Oilers. That's a page out of the Flyers book. Stop him in the neutral zone, and the Flyers buzzed everywhere, but couldn't get it through the neutral.
Paul Coffey, watched by Howe, and the shot saved by Hextall. Back up with it comes Brian Propp. This is a 1-on-1, and the Oilers hurry back. Big shot by Propp, blocked by Huddy, and grabbed off by Fuhr. Paul Coffey off the forechecking of Tocchet. Dug out by Propp to Eklund. Eklund turns the net, centers one, but only Kent Nielsen is there for the Oilers. 12.5 minutes to go in the third. The Oilers still leading in the 7th game of the Stanley Cup Finals, 2-1. Messier rolls deep. Daigneault to get it for Philadelphia. The forechecker is McSorley. Forces him back deeper. And then he hits the back of the goal. Crossman clears, but Steve Smith keeps. He forces Hextall to slug this one. Swirls off, and Hunter tried in close quarters to get it to Gregg and has to play again. Tocchet can't handle, but it's Daigneault back, and McSorley swooping on him again. This one is ripped back around for Rick Tocchet. Tocchet just bats one back further, but it is Gregg controlling on the Oiler defense. Flyers in the midst of a shift change, and so Hextall flings one back out. Muni going back to play for the Oilers. He's matched up on defense with Kevin Lowe. Forechecking, nearly broke it for the Flyers. Samuelsson with a drive that is tipped by Craven. Dug out, though, by Dave Poulin. Poulin forced, gives it up to McSorley.
Good coverage by the Oilers.
A 3-on-3, and McSorley. That one's knocked down, and diving is Hextall to hold on. 11:21 to go. Third period. Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1. Sports Center may be seen immediately following our hockey coverage, including highlights of Davey Allison's second win of the year at the Bud 500, College World Series, French Open. Chris Berman and Gail Gardner will have it all for you. And plenty after the game from the locker rooms as well. Offside called against the Oilers, and the clock stopped with 11:16 to go in the third. Tom Mees and Bill Clement will be downstairs at the conclusion of the game.
As we look at one of the great clutch players, Jari Kurri, he's underrated defensively, he's fabulous offensively. I'm reminded of something that Scott Mellenby said in the locker room following Game 6, and the Flyers hadn't let this out very much. He said, you know, we think we're in better shape. They used it against the Rangers. The Flyers were very quick to point out they thought they were in better shape. They haven't mentioned it too much against the Oilers, but, you know, I believe they do think they're in better shape, and, you know, I really don't believe that it matters one way or the other whether they really are, as long as they believe they are. And I think that's one of the secrets to their comebacks in the third period. They always think they're going to have the legs to get scoring opportunities, and sooner or later catch up. It's not like they lost a hockey game. It's just like they ran out of time when they don't win, and they've just been able to catch up in games 5 and 6.
This is Mark Howe moving on. Gives to Eklund. Eklund has a man breaking McCrimmon through it right in the pile, and McCrimmon able to control. Spins one in front, and McTavish bumped into Fuhr. Puck rolled back out by Hunter. Howe and McCrimmon, the defense pair for Philadelphia, playing catch with it as the clock ticks down to 10:50 to go in the third. The Oilers have had a 2-1 lead since 5 minutes and 1 second remain in period 2. That's when Kurri scored from Gretzky to break the 1-1 tie. On comes Mark Howe, gets away from Lowe. Then a backhander by Propp is sent away by Fuhr. Reaching it is Howe, along for Tocchet, but he's locked up with McTavish. Pulls away, deep slot, Eklund, a shot, tipped wide. Moving in is Lowe once more, trying to get away from Howe, who centers. Puck pops back, and Eklund can't get a shot away. Good checking done by Hunter. 2-on-1, McTavish to McSorley. McSorley feeds, and a diving play made by Brad McCrimmon. McSorley trying once more, lays it around the boards. Waiting for it is Brian Propp. Constant attack met by almost constant resistance. 10 minutes to go in the third. Paul Coffey turns by Howe, curls the net, sliding play again made by McCrimmon, who clears.
Boy, when Paul Coffey gets it going, what a burst of speed he had to go around Howe. But that's the way Howe and McCrimmon play. When Howe is beaten, McCrimmon seems to be almost always there to back him up.
Hextall on the turning stick of Poulin. Feeds it across to Kjell Samuelsson. Then Sinisalo. Wrapped up by Coffey, and Samuelsson forces it further. Charlie Huddy pivots to play. Away from the sweep check of Kjell Samuelsson, who's in deep from the defense. It's popped loose, and Samuelsson keeps it moving again and wafts one wide. Huddy pursued by the hook-checking Murray Craven. Poulin trying to get to it. Puck kicks back to Messier. Has Nielsen breaking, but Samuelsson in the way. 4 good reaches in this last shift by the big defenseman Kjell Samuelsson. He comes to the bench for a shift change as the puck is handed to Steve Smith. Then out to Kurri. Wants to lay it along, but instead it's played over to Crossman. J.J. Daigneault back. It's hacked further by Ron Sutter. Fuhr behind. Under 9 minutes to play. Non-stop action, and that's been the case all night. Daigneault a shot, and that one snared by Fuhr. Now Sutter and Randy Gregg, and then stepping into it as well as Scott Mellenby.
Boy, somebody came in and grabbed Ron Sutter. Asa Tikkanen, number 10.
It has calmed, but still 8 minutes and 46 seconds to go. And the score is still Edmonton 2, Philadelphia. They have seen so much here. They opened the arena in '74, and they were still stanchioning in the seats the night the Alberta Oilers played with Jacques Plante in goal. Ali and Semenko for charity in the summer of '83, and Ali handing out a bloody nose. They've seen some of the finest players in the world here, and included the best of the lot, who arrived at age 17 back in 1979, Wayne Gretzky. And now they're seeing 7th game Stanley Cup Finals, and their team ahead 2-1, 8:46 to go. Ron Sutter won the faceoff but couldn't get to it. Smith twirls it back out, and it's Mark Howe playing on the Philadelphia defense. Hands it to Sutter, and had he been able to turn and accelerate, he'd have had a breakaway. Derek Smith stood up by the hard check of Gregg. Back up comes Messier. Feeds on the wing to Curry. Big drive into Hextall, and he hangs on.
The guns are out. Messier is out. Gretzky, Jari Kurri. Now you got to figure Messier is out there to take the draws deep in his own end to try and win the faceoff. But man, when he gets the puck and starts heading up ice, what an awesome trio coming at you. Messier over to Jari Kurri. Hextall once again having faith in number 10, Brad McCrimmon. Hextall way out of his net, knowing that if Jari Kurri decides to make the pass, McCrimmon's going to cut it off.
In other years, I remember more noise during stoppages of play, but there can't be the confidence here that they've had in prior years. 37 shots, 2 have gotten in. At the other end, 20 from Philadelphia, with 1 getting into the net. They don't get any closer. We're down to the last 8:20. Rick Tockett-over punches it further, but Paul Coffey is guarding the line. Coffey for the Oiler defense, turning it back along to McTavish, hands over to Dave Hunter. Hunter gets away from Tockett's check, but then Tockett outreached him to turn it around. Ron Sutter had it knocked away by Coffey to Hunter. Gives to McTavish, and the shot off Brad Marsh's leg. Sutter starts it back out. Gives across to Marsh. Angles for Brian Propp, but the Oilers see it swung around from Grant Fuhr. Charlie Huddy on defense. Drops it over to Coffey. Messier and Curry, the goals for the Oilers. Murray Craven had the first goal of the game, and that for Philadelphia. Here's Nielsen trying to get there, but Tockett outreached him again. And it is Propp punching, but Anderson taking. Crosses with Nielsen. Anderson forced off by Marsh. Tries to get to the front, one-handed one. And Shel Samuelson again with the long reach, punched it away. Lowe lofts it. Marsh chasing. Messier after him. Slams into the boards. Marsh pressed by Anderson. The give is to Messier. Anderson just taken right out of the play by Shel Samuelson. Puck fed to Lowe. Wraps it around. Anderson can't reach. Gregg there. Checked by Brian Propp. Then Marsh ties up his man. Nielsen spins. Wants to get a shot away. Wedged off. Drive. Blocked off in front as that one hit Messier, who's down in pain. Back up now comes Brian Propp. On to Sinisalo. Then to Propp. A shot off a leg. And the puck swung back out by Grant Fuhr. Daniel takes, and Bill, what were you watching?
What a hit Randy Gregg laid on Brian Propp, or Sinisalo rather, when he came across the blue line. You know what the Oilers are doing tonight that they didn't do in games 5 and 6? They're not changing. They're playing exactly the way they have throughout the entire game. And you know what? It's working for them.
It's working for them as the score. Mark Messier hurt and in pain. His team leading 2-1.
We're going to take a look at the shot that hits Mark Messier right in the ankle. And as we speak, he is sitting on the bench. He had his head actually resting on Glenn Anderson's shoulder, his line mate's shoulder, had a hold of his arm, and was squeezing it just about as tight as he could, I imagine, trying to get the pain to go away.
Doug Crossman centers one in front. That's checked loose by Gretzky. Oh, and Poulin wouldn't let it get by. But they're forced to center ice nonetheless as Daniel brushes. Can't get his man. Curry steps back in. Jari Kurri, a shot blocked down. Rebound, trickle off the side of the net. Still they fight for it. Wayne Gretzky tries to center. Curry with another try. Pivoting on him is Daniel.
You see, Mike, how they're not afraid to have 2 men in. Gretzky's in, Curry's in. When Messier was out there, it was Messier and Anderson. They're not sending 1 man in. They're continuing to forecheck with 2 men in. The Flyers can't get out.
This is Coffey. Forced behind by Craven. A man is bear hugged in front. Doug Crossman has his man wrapped up, and that'll cost 1 penalty, maybe 2.
Asa Tikkanen.
Well, the Oilers were freewheeling, weren't they? Really starting to get the Jets going.
Paul Coffey is pinching in when he has to, when he's always being backed up. It's not the conservative shell that we saw in games 5 and 6. And the Flyers are having a terrible time getting out of their end. And you wonder what went on in the closed practice that no one saw, that Glenn Sather had. I'm sure a lot was said about, listen, guys, if we're going to go down, let's go down playing the way we play best. Let's continue to take it to them right till the end. Not in a crazy way. Let's not open it up and take chances that are going to cost us goals. Back each other up. Paul Coffey, when it's time for you to pinch in and go right in behind Ron Hextall's net, go ahead. Marty McSorley will be there to back you up. Dave Hunter will be. And 5 minutes and 44 seconds to go. Lots can happen. But this is a different Oilers team than we saw in games 5 and 6. They've really held their ground well here.
The ovation that you're hearing is that Mark Messier just took a little practice turn on the ice in front of the bench. And the fans here standing, knowing that their big centerman is back and healthy.
Did you see Ron Hextall lose his balance? I think he had a strap loose on his left pad. You can see a strap. There was a glimpse of it dangling between his legs. Here's the Tikkanen Doug Crossman altercation.
Philadelphia may be taking time out here. Crossman gets 2 minutes for holding. And Tikkanen 2 minutes for roughing. No, there's no timeout. It's a shattered bottle.
Just talking broken glass there. How'd you like to get hit in the head with one of those?
It's just so thoughtless. And if you need any evidence, talk to a guy from the Minnesota North Stars sometime about what happens when debris is on the ice, but glass. The guy from the North Stars we were referring to, Dino Ciccarelli, stepped on a piece of debris, went headlong into the boards, broke a leg, had to have a 15-inch rod put in his leg.
Mike, I'm not sure Mark Messier is going to be able to go. That was his second spin. And he still looks as if he's in a lot of pain. But if his team can hang on, each player will receive $25,000. That's beside their place finish. Here's another look at the shot that hits Messier's ankle. So the Oilers, should they hang on, will receive $25,000 a man. The Flyers as losers if the score doesn't change. $18,000 a man. And you can add $5,000 for conference wins. That totals $30,000 for the winning team and $23,000 for the losing team. But we've seen the Flyers do it before. I mentioned that the Oilers would win 30 only if they hang on to win. 5:44 to go in the third.
Those youngsters like you once were, Bill Clement, who circled the basement or perhaps out in the driveway if it was frozen, or where their parents made ponds for them in the backyard with a hose every late fall when it started to get below freezing constantly. Never really thought about money when they thought about the Stanley Cup. They just thought about that big trophy.
Even now, they're not thinking of the money. They're thinking of the ring, the honor, and the lifelong dream realized. Ron Hextall, what would it be like for him to win a Stanley Cup in his rookie season?
Does Curry have the game winner, or will it come later? It is 2-1 with 5:40 to go, third period. Mark Howe gives up to Lowe. Quickly for Hunter, but it ricocheted back. And puck out of play. Bob Kelly and Rick McLeish, the two men who got the game-winning goals in the deciding game of the Stanley Cup for Philadelphia, are here tonight. Ken Lintzman had the first Oiler clincher. Paul Coffey had the one in '85.
You know, if Mark Messier can't make it back out, we haven't seen him, he's a key loss, even though there are only 5 minutes to go. If the Flyers can get down, penetrate, get some face-offs, Messier is the #1 draw man for the Edmonton Oilers. They'll be without him if he can't skate, and I'm not sure that he's going to make it back.
Low, Gregg, McTavish, and back in. Clock ticks down to under 5.5. With it is Samuelson, forced by McSorley, but along it is sent further, and Ron Sutter in stride, hoping to get to it, though Gregg arrives first. Little chipper, and Hextall there flings it away from Marty McSorley. Marsh allowed it to go, and it's McTavish moving in. Wedged off by Ron Sutter. Marsh punches, misses, but it's Dave Hunter retrieving. Sutter and McTavish once more. Hunter along. Samuelson right after him to press him up against the boards.
Oh, what a battle McTavish is having. He's trying to get his glove back on at the same time as he's battling Ron Sutter. He had lost his glove, and in the middle of it all, reached down, picked it up. Somehow he has it back on. What an unsung guy. Craig McTavish has had a brilliant series against the Flyers. And here's Messier, who's back.
Another standing ovation for Mark Messier. Boy, there's been so much emotion packed into this series. The Flyers series to reach here. I'm sure there were some, though it wasn't with the same threat that the Oilers felt when they went by Los Angeles and then Winnipeg. Had a scare from Detroit.
Oh, there's been no sense of urgency like we're seeing now. Mark Messier is back. Wayne Gretzky says people would be surprised if they knew just how much Mark Messier meant to my career. I don't play on the same line with him. I hardly ever get on the ice at the same time. But he says, believe me, he's meant a lot to my career and has helped it.
And of Ron Hextall, Gretzky said, the best goalie I ever faced. Hextall has faced 39 Oilers shots. At the other end, Grant Fuhr has faced 20 from Philadelphia and only 2 in this period. The puck comes back to Huddy for a shot directed away by Hextall. It is Tocchet with a pass that skips through. Brian Propp wants to fidget it further, but it's Messier in the way. Shovels off for Anderson, and that caromed off the lines to nearly to him. Rolled out by Samuelson, sent further by Tocchet, but again it's Messier. Seems to have great turning ability, Messier, despite taking that one on the ankle. Nielsen pivots and forces the Flyers defense. 8 and 28. Marsh and Samuelson to turn once more. Messier runs into Samuelson. Nielsen to Anderson, and the shot wide. Huddy with 4:15 left in the third. Hands it to Paul Coffey. Forechecking is Brian Propp, but it's broken with the pass on to Anderson, then to Wayne Gretzky. And Gretzky drops it deep. Don't recall calling Gretzky's name that much here in the third period. Play made over to Samuelson by Zezel and by Propp. Gregg misses for Gretzky. And it is Brad Marsh away from Trusomiski, turning it on to Propp, who has to hurry it back to Marsh. Oilers are doing some swooping now. Hextall again back. Hurries it the other side, and Curry keeps it in for the Oilers. Zezel with 3:40 to go. Along to Craven. Oilers keep again. Oh, and off Hextall on the outside of the goal. How close can it come?
That could have been the Stanley Cup. Sealed, signed, delivered right there on the deflection by Wayne Gretzky. The Oilers have been so dominant in the last 10 minutes of this hockey game. There it is between the legs. If it doesn't hit Hextall's right pad and come back this way, it's in. Another look at it. Notice how deep the Edmonton defense are able to move in. They're not shying back. They're not pulling out. Randy Gregg stood his ground and made the play here to Gretzky. Hextall just nicked it. What's the best defense? Play on the Flyers' end, and the Oilers have done that pretty consistently for the last 10 to 12 minutes. Forechecking, great forechecking by the Oilers. The Flyers have only had 2 shots on goal the whole period. So what have the Oilers changed? Well, they're not trying to protect the lead by sitting on it. They're forechecking as aggressively as they were at the beginning of the game and having great success.
Fans are now stomping their feet. They'll do more if it's the same score. 3.5 minutes of playing time from now. It is Howe on the turning stick of Poulin. Then to McCrimmon and up to Scott Mellanby. Gregg tied him up, and the pass couldn't be completed to McCrimmon. Moving in is Sutter, checking with McTavish. Trying to work further, and poking at it now is Dave Poulin. Still wants to kick it along. 2 aside, and the 5th man, who so often gets it, does this time Dave Hunter. Striding back for it, McSorley. Hextall coming out, turned it into McSorley, and the puck skidded high in the air to be played by Howe. Under 3 minutes to go. Such wonderful action we've seen in this playoff coverage on ESPN, and it's been a splendid one tonight, though all Oilers, it seems, here in the third. On now comes Mark Messier by Howe. Messier in front. Diving play made by Hextall. Mark Howe took some lumber from Anderson, but keeps it moving with 2.5 to go. The puck wound up going off Craven. Anderson can't control as Howe punches it away. Anderson following up once more. Big drive, score!
This is the one that should bring the Stanley Cup back to Edmonton. Glenn Anderson's blast between Ron Hextall's legs through a screen. Doug Crossman was in front. And after the goal by Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier raised his arms in the air and very slowly glided, not to the pack of players that were congratulating one another, but all the way slowly to the other end of the ice. Saluting the fans, releasing the tension, the pressures that these guys have felt. And you know that this man hasn't given up yet. There are 2 minutes and 23 seconds to go. And until Ron Hextall hears the final buzzer, he won't quit.
Huddy, checked by Brian Propp. Coffey turns it over to Curry, and it's laid back down. Well, we've talked so much of Flyer courage, and then Mark Messier, painful injury, comes off and becomes a force in this game. We'll get the official scoring. Anderson at 17:36. We don't have the assists as yet. Tocchet flips one ahead to Brian Propp. Feeds over to Eklund. Can't steam by the defense as they close ranks, and Greg flicks it away. 1 minute, 42 seconds to go. Wayne Gretzky trying to worm his way in deep, and then pivots off and rolls for Krushelnyski. His shot is deflected away by Marsh. Paul Coffey takes over with 90 seconds to go. Pass connects with Gretzky. Lays it in deep. That's the main Edmonton concern right now. Of course, the Flyers, with nothing to lose, will undoubtedly pull their goalie in the last 60 seconds or close to that. Hextall takes a look at the clock, then at the bench. Is not coming yet. Turning with it is Coffey. Plays it back onto Marty McSorley. Moves up with Wayne Gretzky waiting. The drop is to Gretzky. Gretzky yanks it back off to Charlie Huddy. His drive answered by Hextall. Shot 43 for the Edmonton Oilers. The final minute of play. The puck hops to Huddy. Taps back though, and Dave Hunter rolls it back in for Gretzky. Forced off by McCrimmon. Mellenby can't take over. Still reaching but can't. And Gretzky drops it in again. Hextall turns it. Lowe keeps it. Forces them deep. The last 4 cups have been presented in Alberta province. Last year in Calgary to the Montreal Canadiens. The 2 years previously here to the Oilers. And with 39 seconds to go, the third could come in just a moment. You felt that being at the bench.
What a series. The Flyers knew they had a mountain that I guess was about the size of Mount Everest, and there were all kinds of analogies made. Rick Tocchet was approached on the subject of climbing the mountain, and he said, you know, we have a lot of mountain climbers. They went out to win Game 5. They went out to win Game 6. They won them both. But as we pointed out, Mike, in one of our earlier casts, there are a lot more people that have failed climbing Mount Everest than have succeeded. What a gallant try. Down to 39 seconds, 2-goal lead, barring a miracle. Edmonton Oilers have won the Stanley Cup. There's Wayne Gretzky's dad. Shaking hands, trying to get a picture. So I want to get a picture of all of this. Mike Keenan, who has never said die, kept his positive attitude together even when his team was down.
Well, that is a club that is bloodied yet unbowed. They look at it as 39 seconds to go. 2 goals they have to force overtime.
Yeah. You know, you can say what you want about winning, and it might not be everything, but until you play your next game, you know, it really simplifies all of your problems and makes the whole world look beautiful. And when you lose in a situation like this, well, very often it just makes you cry.
The next game for these two teams in the regular season isn't for 20 weeks.
What a gallant effort by the Flyers. We have been so fortunate to be a part of this playoff year. It's been wonderful.
It gives you a tingly sort of feeling to watch all this, because really the fans are standing to salute their team, but also we feel they're probably saluting the Philadelphia team that courageously forced them to a 7th game and a chance to watch this. Hextall nearly handcuffed stick handling in the final 15 seconds. Playing it is Kevin Lowe. You want to hear the chant? Here it comes from 10 seconds. He takes something from a memorable series, the Conn Smythe Trophy. Wayne Gretzky's team takes the Stanley Cup. What a wonderful tradition, the handshake.
So much more emotion yet to come. Some of it in the form of exhilaration. Some of it not quite as exhilarating in the Philadelphia Flyers locker room. The big question for all of these athletes when they get up in the morning is such a strange feeling tomorrow morning. What do we do now? We don't have to go to the rink. It takes about 48 hours to become oriented again to what's really going on in life. You're so tuned out to what's happening all around the world. All there's been is the Stanley Cup to all of these guys. Be able to hear in the background the song "You're Still the One" by Group Orleans, which has become the theme song of the Oilers. They're still hot in this town.
Boy, do the pictures say so much about mutual respect.
There are no words that the Edmonton Oilers can use right now to pay Ron Hextall enough respect. Some of them will try. See them shaking their heads, saying you were unbelievable.
Ken Nielsen may very well have played his last NHL game here tonight. And that could be the case for Ruotsalainen. We know it will be for Pozar, who did not dress. John A. Ziegler Jr., the president of the National Hockey League, is waiting to make the presentation.
Here it comes. The cup is on its way. Now maybe Mark Messier will talk to us. Here comes Al Weissman of NHL Security carrying the Stanley Cup, and it won't take long for the Oilers to get that out of his hands.
Is it as heavy as it looks, Bill?
It's never heavy when you've won, Mike, when you get a chance to touch it. And it'll be in the locker room, and we'll see it after. It'll be full of champagne. It's not as heavy as it looks, but it could weigh 1,000 pounds, and these guys would find a way to carry it. It really doesn't matter now. Wayne Gretzky still trying to organize things. Ever the captain, ever the leader. This is a moment that the players want to enjoy so much, and they're very tolerant of the fact that our cameras are down there, everybody's cameras are down there. But it's a moment that's very cherished by the players. They don't really appreciate being crowded that much. They want to be able to hoist it, get loose, and as a team, skate around and perform one of the greatest traditions in sports. And here it goes. They'll take turns with it. Here's Muni. It started with Steve Smith. Charlie Huddy's got his hand up. There's Huddy. Let the defenseman do it first. We talked about the Oilers having learned a whole new skill. That's playing defense. Glenn Anderson has it now.
It's interesting, Charlie Huddy went one whole month without playing a game twice during this season. When he got in for the big ones, Greg Muni was dealt to two different teams in a week and came back to Edmonton. Big goal against Detroit. Two of them against the Philadelphia Flyers. And Mark Messier, who courageously came back after being struck in the ankle by a shot and made a lot of offensive thrusts and some hard checks and perhaps inspired the insurance goal by Glenn Anderson. For the record, Anderson from Huddy at 17:36 brought the crowd to its feet to stay. This bunch does not want to hear what they call the D word, dynasty. They've won the cup for 3 of the last 4 years. But the dressing room is there. The champagne, which the Oilers feel aged 5 days too long, is ready to finally be popped. And Grant Fuhr, strangely, whose name was not mentioned in 7 pages of newspaper copy locally here today, gets his chance with the cup. Quiet, genteel man, Grant Fuhr, who just calmly turned aside the Flyers through the crucial points of this series. 20 shots on him tonight. He stopped 19. There's no way to choreograph this. It's just continual exultation. And even think it's charged up here. Bill Clement's headed to the Oilers locker room. And they get away from the roar of the crowd just to be in the tight 4 walls of that room where they have lived the ups and downs of any NHL season. Regardless of how successful your team is, you have down. We saw Tom Meese momentarily. He's also going to be involved. But you see, the Oilers have arrived at their locker room. And we'll be back to take part in all the celebrating. Again, the final score. Oilers 3, Flyers 1. The Oilers take the series 4-3. You see so much emotion here. Mr. McSorley probably made one of those backyard rinks for his son and dreamed of a 7th game for his son, as his son did. They share an embrace after capturing the Stanley Cup in 7 games from Philadelphia. You talk about emotion. What contrast there must be with this man, Ron Hextall. What a courageous goaltender. He is our Hartford Insurance Player of the Game. Hartford Insurance, the people of ITT. For the 4th time in the 24 years that the Conn Smythe Trophy has been awarded, it's gone to a member of the losing team, and for the 3rd time, that's a goalie. Roger Crozier of Detroit in '66. Glenn Hall, a goalkeeper for St. Louis in '68. Reggie Leach, the right-wing sniper for Philadelphia in '76. And this time, Ron Hextall. The jerseys are being peeled off for the very last time. Only one team out of 21 gets to do it happily. And you're watching that team, the Edmonton Oilers. Directly in the middle of your screen, in the coach's uniform, that blue with the orange and white stripe, is Ronnie Lowe. And you talk about courage and goal. There was a man who played here in Edmonton and with a lot of other teams that weren't quite so good. And he's enjoying the victory now, as he's been an assistant coach for the Oilers with their farm team and has been more or less the goalie mentor here, coming on as soon as the Nova Scotia team was eliminated from the playoffs. And he is applying the big hug right now to Charlie Huddy. Bill Clement, probably not true dry, will be coming along with some interviews from that locker room when we return. Final score of the game, in case you're just joining us. You missed a wonderful game and a tremendous series. The Oilers 3, Philadelphia 1. For the first time in their careers, Kent Nielsen, Rayo Ruotsalainen, Greg McTavish, Greg Muni, Steve Smith, Marty McSorley, and Kelly Buchberger will have their names on the Stanley Cup. The criteria being, you must play 40 regular season games with the team, or just 1 game in the finals. And based on that, Jeff Bukaboom, who played in 44 regular season games but didn't get in the finals, will also have his name on that treasured trophy. It'll be the 2nd time for the names of Tikkanen and Krushelnyski, and the 3rd time for members of this 7-year project. They've been together 7 years. Gretzky and Curry and Hunter, Messier, Anderson, Coffey, and Lowe. And in addition, the 3rd time for men like Pozar and Gregg and Charlie Huddy and Kevin McClellan. The interviews are going on. We mentioned that there were so many telecasts here tonight. Bill Clement is getting situated, but you must recognize there is predictable unpredictability and pandemonium going on down in that Oilers locker room. The Conn Smythe Trophy has already been formally presented down in the bowels of this 13-year-old arena to Ron Hextall. The Conn Smythe, by the way, in case we didn't amplify, goes to the player adjudged most valuable for his team in the playoffs. And most of the people were thinking that as this 7th game unfolded, that the leading candidate was Hextall. No one else was really that close, but beneath might have been Gretzky or Curry. Grant Fuhr, again, the silent warrior who is rarely ever mentioned for any acclaim, was being overlooked. Northlands Coliseum empty right now. 17,500 were chanting and cheering. They've vacated, but there's more cheering to go on down in the locker room. Mr. Clement is alongside Mr. Coffey.
You can imagine what's going on in here. I'm with Paul Coffey. Paul, this is your third one. Does it ever diminish in intensity? Is this just as good as the first one or the second one, maybe better?
Well, they're all pretty hard to explain, Billy. I think this one was myself some of my toughest. It's been a long year. It's been a long year for our team, seeing what happened to us last year, and I'm just happy it's over, that's all.
Yeah, you got a lot of monkeys off your back. After losing to Calgary, there was a Sports Illustrated article. There was a lot of pressure on you guys, perhaps more than the first 2 cups.
Oh, no doubt about that. That and blowing the 3-1 lead in the series. But, you know, right now I'd like to take the time and give the Philadelphia hockey team and organization a hell of a push. They're a great hockey team, and it's just too bad there couldn't be 2 winners.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to be in this locker room, too, and sharing. And a lot of people that watch this don't understand, I guess, that part of the sweetness of victory is being able to share it with guys that you're so close to on this hockey team.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I've spent 7 years with 10 or 15 guys in this dressing room, and I mean, I love every one of them, and those are the guys you play for day in and day and night, and you'll be able to refer to that, and I mean, you know, it's just a great feeling.
Any highlights in the playoffs from start to finish? Some of the series seemed a little easier than they might have looked on the surface, but there were some that weren't as easy as they looked, I imagine.
Well, I would have to say the biggest highlight was, I mean, going Game 7 against a great hockey team like Philly and seeing that clock finally tick down. The last couple of games, it took a long time, but tonight it was going well.
Can this team stick together and looking ahead? It's a great hockey team. Everybody seems so close. Are you as tight now as you were when you won the first 2?
I would like to think we are. I think we've had a few ups and downs or whatnot with little rifts between.
Yeah.
People have heard it and read it, and hopefully we can get all that cleared up and just start again next year.
You guys were wonderful tonight. You didn't go into the shell that we saw you go into in games 5 and game 6, and you really poured it to them in the 3rd period. Was that something that went on in that close practice that nobody got a chance to see?
Well, we definitely did. I mean, again, you can't take anything away from Philly, but we felt the last 2 games that we might have gave it to them. We gave up when we didn't keep checking, and tonight, I mean, what can you say? Our guys played fantastic.
Paul Coffey, thanks very much. If I could reach over and grab Peter Pocklington. Peter, can we get you in here to the Edmonton Oilers owner? And you can see that he is pretty well drenched at this point, but it's pretty sweet tasting champagne. Peter, sweet as the first 2?
Sweeter. I'll tell you, with that year off in between, you come to the 7th game, and all day long I've been suffering with I wonder, and heart going a little tougher than normally. And I guess this is sweeter because the fellows that made it happen were the guys that, I suppose, the backbone of the club that weren't here before. Fellows like McTavish and Kevin McClelland, Nelson, fellows that never won a, that's right, McSorley was an outstanding hero. Fellows that made it happen. You know, our city needs this. We need a lift.
Thanks very much and congratulations. Tom Mees is standing by in the Philadelphia locker room. Tom?
Thank you very much, Bill Clement. Of course, a very disappointed Philadelphia Flyer club that fought so valiantly tonight and fell just short. Let's see if we can listen in on the post-game comments of defenseman Brad Marsh. Brad, the last period and a half or so, they seemed to almost be like a storm winding up at center ice, gaining strength. They didn't change their style one iota in this game.
Well, they played extremely well. We had a lot of good chances, or perhaps more chances than we had in the first period, and we couldn't come in with a lead. And we felt that was a big plus for us tonight if we could have a lead after 1 period. But give them credit, they held their lead once they got it. They had taken a lot of heat over the past couple games especially, and you know, it was a good game, but you know, they really had their guns going tonight.
Was there a point inside where you felt it slipping away, beginning to feel it slip away?
Well, I thought the first period was a very good hockey period. In the second period, they scored just before they scored the goal, we started taking over a little bit. I felt on the bench. We had a couple good shifts back to back, and then they got the goal. And you know, once they scored, you know, they were really playing well. They had always had a third and fourth man back sometimes.
I know it hurts right now, but you look back, you guys had a great season, really, when you think about it.
Well, perhaps it'll sink in a couple weeks or whatever. You know, but right now, you know, we're not thinking of anything that happened in the past. We're just thinking of tonight.
All right. Brad Marsh, very disappointed, as you might expect, in the Philadelphia locker room. Now let's go back live into the Edmonton locker room and our Bill Clement. Bill?
Thanks, Tom. I'm standing here with Steve Smith. Steve, it must seem like, it was 1 year ago, but it must seem like more than that, longer ago, that you guys were sitting in here, victims of a loss to the Calgary Flames last year in the playoffs.
Well, it seems like an eternity, and it's just so exciting now that, you know, we get a chance again, and we're really thrilled about it, I'll tell you.
And everybody, I'm sure, it's a time where everyone can share, and it's not only in the room here, and I was talking to Paul Coffey about that, it's being able to share it with family and all the people that supported you during all those years as a kid, isn't it?
Well, it's exciting, I'll tell you. All my family is in from Ontario, and they're sure excited to be here, and I'm just glad that we can win it tonight, and, you know, I'm sure they're going to be just as excited as I am.
How about the Flyers?
Well, it's got to be a big disappointment for them. They couldn't have played a better series. You know, no team deserved to lose tonight, and you know, we were fortunate enough that we came out with a win.
Pretty tough all the way, and you guys seem to get it together, and the patience and discipline that we talked about in the first few games seemed to disappear for 5 and 6. You seem to get it back tonight, especially when you needed, when you were ahead. You stayed patient, and you kept the discipline.
Well, I think maybe we learned a little bit of a lesson after that games 5 and 6, and you know, we knew what we had to do tonight, and you know, we had the guns to do it. It's just a matter of coming out and, like you say, being disciplined, and you know, thank goodness that it turned out good for us.
It sure worked. How's that champagne taste out of the cup quickly?
Oh, boy. It's good. It's better than it out of a bottle, I'll tell you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Congratulations. Let's go upstairs to Mike Emmerich.
In 1980, Peter Pocklington stood next to Glenn Sather and said he'll bring the cup to Edmonton in 5 years. He did it twice in those 5 years. He has now done it 3 times in 7. Back in just a moment.
Now I owe Grant Fuhr, and you can see what happened. Unfortunately, his aim was off, and not nearly as much went in my mouth as went all over my face. Grant, congratulations. I won't hold it against you. Great series.
Thank you. I think it was a good series. I mean, both teams played well, and it deserved to go 7 games.
Try and compare it to the first 2 cups that you were on here in Edmonton. How does this one compare emotionally to you guys?
I think it's the best one. I mean, we lost it last year, and we worked hard to get it back. Now it's back, and it's ours.
How tough were the Flyers? Were they, obviously, we saw them come back. Did you ever think they were going to die? Did it ever cross your minds? Hi, Kent Nilsson. Congratulations. I'm doing fine, thanks. How are you? Did it ever cross your minds, listen, these guys might just come back and knock us out, or was it positive all the way?
We're positive all the way. I mean, this team won't lose 3 in a row. They're a good hockey club. They should be commended. It's just that tonight the guys played unbelievable. We just checked them to a standstill.
You sure did. In the third period, when you seemed to attack, that's when nobody knows what went on in that close practice, but you guys were definitely a different team than you were in Game 6. You hardly had any work in the third period.
That was great. I mean, the guys relaxed. We played unbelievable.
You mean you'd rather play in the third period with nobody down at your end?
Hey, it's easy. I love it. You got to like winning.
You got to like winning. 3 Stanley Cups. You'll recoup. This team might just be together for a lot of years. It's still pretty young, isn't it?
It is still fairly young. I mean, we got a good nucleus. Hopefully we can put 3 or 4 more together.
Got a good nucleus. Also got champagne in all the announcers' eyes. Really appreciate it. We've got to go back over to Tom Mees in the Philadelphia locker room.
Thank you very much, Bill Clement. So the Edmonton Oilers win their 3rd Stanley Cup in 4 years. The Philadelphia Flyers, as Mike Emmerich mentioned during the latter part of the third period, very gallant team, gave it their best shot tonight, but they admitted really that the Oilers, the reason that they won, they just did what they do best, and they did it for 60 minutes. They didn't deviate from the game plan, and it's because of that and the great play of veterans like Grant Fuhr and, of course, Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier and all the stars they have, while they eked out a 4-3 victory, and the Stanley Cup remains here in Alberta Province. For some final words on tonight's game telecast, let's go back upstairs again to our Mike Emmerich. Mike?
Are these some of your memories, those deafening ovations at Joe Louis Arena in the Spectrum, the white shirts in Winnipeg and Quebec and Washington? The splendid series here, matching the 2 best teams, only the 3rd time in the last decade that it's happened. The pipe banging of Ron Hextall and the quiet dignity you just saw of Grant Fuhr, despite putting some champagne into the face of Bill Clement. And if one game could thrill us and move us, that 6.5-hour duel between Bob Mason and his Caps and Kelly Rudy and his Islanders. We have so many people to thank and so little time to do it. By this time tomorrow, the ice will have melted away. One of God's greatest gifts is memory. These are some of ours. For all of us, this has been a big time.
Hi there. I'm on my way, I'm making it. I've got to make it show, yeah. So much larger than life. I'm on my way, I'm making it.
all the somewheres you've ever dreamed of. Now there is Allegis, United Air.
7 games, and the issue would ultimately be decided by a pair of netminders who are 23 and 24 years old, but who already have put together a series of performances that will be talked about for the ages. One of those guys we're talking about, 23-year-old netminder of the Philadelphia Flyers, Ron Hextall, who is with Tom Mees right now in Edmonton. Tommy, let's go back out to you at Northland's Coliseum.
Back in the Philadelphia Flyer locker room, I'm with Conn Smythe trophy-winning goaltender Ron Hextall, the Philadelphia Flyers. Ron, I know it has to be a bittersweet moment for you, but you gave us some thrills we won't soon forget.
Well, I gave it my best shot, as did the other 20 guys in the dressing room. I thought we played a heck of a series. You never know, a couple breaks tonight, we might have won the game, but unfortunately we didn't get them.
What was the point that maybe the guys felt that Edmonton was getting into their rhythm and their flow, and they put constant pressure on you?
Well, I think we were in it right to the end of that game. Maybe the third goal was a backbreaker. You know, I wish I would have stopped it. It would have given us one more chance, but unfortunately I didn't.
Does the Conn Smythe Trophy help ease the pain of not winning the Stanley Cup?
No, it's an individual award. I couldn't have won it without my teammates. I'd have loved to win the Stanley Cup. It's not much for consolation, but I am proud of winning it.
You know, you're only the 4th player on a team that didn't win the Cup to win that award. There's some great players, including Reggie Leach of the Flyers several years ago, that won it. So you are in elite company.
Yeah, well, it's disheartening not to win the Stanley Cup when we did come this far. That was our goal. Unfortunately, we weren't able to win it.
Well, you had a great season, and I think, as Mike Emmerich mentioned, the folks here in Edmonton were standing at the end, mostly for their team, but partly for the performance you gave. It was outstanding, and we congratulate you on a great effort.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. All right, that's the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Ron Hextall, the Philadelphia Flyers. Bill Clement standing by live in the locker room of the Edmonton Oilers. Bill?
Okay, Tom, it's not really getting any drier. They seem to find more and more champagne. We're all getting wetter. I'm with Marty McSorley. Marty, I know it's difficult. I've been here before. Can you try and put into words what the emotions are right now, what you're feeling?
It's like somebody lifted a bulldozer off your shoulders. It was just so much emotion, so much hyped up pressure inside that you had to win the Stanley Cup, and the guys were saying, we're going to win it for you, we're going to win it for you. And I had so much expectation, I couldn't realize what it was like. Finally, I'm holding the Stanley Cup, and it's a goal, the biggest dream of my life to win it. And oh, it's just, I'm the happiest man in the world. I've reached one of the biggest goals of my life.
Are you happy about being able to share it with family, too? That was always something that I think meant a lot to everybody that plays, because we all grew up as kids with parents watching and wanting us to do well, and then when you finally win it, you not only win it for you, but you win it for them, too.
Well, my dad's always been there. You know, he was always behind me. He was giving me so much great support, and I looked down after I handed the cup off, and he's at the end of the rink. He's got tears in his face. He's been here. He's been such a silent support for my whole career, and his name, my name is on the Stanley Cup. They can't take it away from us. I don't care who looks at it, it's there, and I can't be happier right now.
That's great. How did it feel to carry that cup around then when you passed it off?
Well, the guys were saying to me constantly, they were saying, just grab it, carry it. They says, we're going to win the cup for you.
Could you try and hit my mouth with a little of that?
Mark Messier pushed me, and he says, carry that cup. He says, carry it, because they've been there. They were saying to me the whole playoffs, we're going to get it for you, kid. We're going to get it for you. Do your job, work with us. And these guys are 19 to 20, greatest guys in the world. They made this possible 2 years when I came here. They took me under the wing. They nurtured me every practice, brought me along, give me confidence. I love these guys.
Marty,
this is the best situation.
How old were you when you started thinking of winning the Stanley Cup? We all dream of it as kids. Do you remember when you started dreaming about not only playing in the NHL, but winning the Cup?
When my dad gave me my older brother's skates and says, go play with your brothers on the pond. He says, go there. And you're down there. My brothers are going 7th game, the Stanley Cup Finals. Every time you win a ball hockey game, you put rubber boots or skates on, you dream of the Stanley Cup.
Did that bulldozer get off your shoulders when Glenn Anderson scored? I was figuring up there that as soon as he made it 3, that was it. All of a sudden, for the first time, you could relax.
All of a sudden, everything seemed to open up. All of a sudden, there was that big realization that we're going to win the Stanley Cup. We're going to win it. Nobody's going to take it away. 3 tries, they came back. They were a great hockey team. They played well. Ron Hextall on the Conn Smythe, he played very well in nets. We kept peppering him. Their whole hockey team played so very well. And then, you know, we couldn't just seem to put those guys away in that third goal.
Yeah.
All our offensive players just played so great defensively. They made such a commitment. And we got the Stanley Cup now.
How about Marty McSorley personally? When this season started, it was a tough year for you. You played 41 games, you scored 2 goals, you doubled your output in the playoffs, you had the suspension, you got sent to the minors. Did you dream that you would have played as much as you did in a Game 7? You were out there, you played a great game, but every time I looked down, you were doing something constructive out there. It must be a dream come true, not only to win it, but to be such a big part of it personally.
Well, the guy says, constantly they were saying, slats to us, a pat in the back. We're going to win the odd game by 2 or 3 goals. He kept pushing me out there, work harder, work harder. They put me in a situation to learn and develop and to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes. And before you know it, you're playing, they're giving you the confidence, they're playing off you, then you're not scared to make a mistake, and you feel like you're improving as a hockey player. And, you know, you can't say any more than the guys in the dressing room. Every day you go on the ice, you're learning. And you just pray for this opportunity.
Great feeling. Congratulations. Give me a hand.
Buddy, there you go. Take a little sip, big guy.
Did any hit my mouth that time? Could you, before you go, give me a hand and try and find Wayne Gretzky for me. Is he close?
Wayne Gretzky? Oh, he's the guy making all the great plays over here. Where is he?
I had him in my eyesight a minute ago, but for obvious reasons, I'm blinded now. Let me look around. Well, while I'm looking for Wayne Gretzky, let's go back to Sports Center.
Okay, Bill is going to wipe a little bit of that champagne out of his eyes. Hopefully we'll go back there, and he'll be with Wayne Gretzky.
Gretzky's a guy you can find.
Yes, this is true.
Opponents wish they never did find him. All right, it was a game to shout about.
Game.
7th game. Let's take a look at what happened tonight at the Northlands Coliseum, where a crowd of over 17,000 on hand to see if the Oilers could do it in their 3rd try to try and put the Flyers away. But very early, Van Helleman calls 2 penalties. Coffey joins Messier in the penalty box, and less than 2 minutes into the game with a 2-man advantage, Murray Craven from the short angle. First time in the 7 games the Flyers have scored first. Doug Crossman in front, and despite the efforts of Fuhr, it could have been a 2-0 game Flyers very early. Now, watch Glenn Anderson make the pass to Kent Nilsson. Nilsson to Mark Messier, who scores, and we are tied at 1 in the first period. A beautiful goal by the Oilers on the move. Then it's Philly's turn to move. Brian Propp shooting. There's the puck. Tantalizing on the goal line, but the Oilers knock it away. Still in the first period, the Oilers moving quickly now. Messier skates it from point blank, but he hit the crossbar. Everybody thought they scored a goal. Let's take a look. It gets under the armpit of Hextall, hits the crossbar 3 times. The Oilers hit the crossbar or the post. 1-1 at the end of 1. Second period. Hextall makes a save on McTavish. The goaltending duel continues. Grant Fuhr was great at the other end. Ilka Sinisalo from 8 feet, but Fuhr kicks it out with a scintillating save. 5 minutes to go in the second period. Tikkanen to Gretzky to Curry, who scores, and the Oilers finally grab the lead. 5 minutes left in period number 2, with 2:24 to go in the game. Glenn Anderson with the backbreaker, with the cannonading glass to beat Hextall. The Oilers lead it 3-1 and go on to win it, despite the fact that the youngster, Ron Hextall, is awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy for the outstanding goaltending. But there's the sight that every youngster growing up to play hockey dreams about. The Stanley Cup, skating it around with your teammates, as Edmonton wins the Stanley Cup 4-3 over the Flyers, winning tonight 3-1, out shooting the Flyers 43-20. But Hextall was marvelous. Once again, Wayne Gretzky with an assist that set up the eventual game winner. He did that in all 4 games that the Oilers won. And just a marvelous series. And maybe the Flyers felt when they got the first goal, it was their turn. It had never happened before, but the Oilers said, no, we're going to play 2-way hockey for 60 minutes.
I was going to say that was really impressive to me, especially in the 3rd period, was that the Oilers, you know, sometimes they're jumped on because of their lack of defensive times. They really came through in front of Grant Fuhr.
Yes, and Grant Fuhr wasn't too bad either. He could have easily won the Conn Smythe Trophy. It should be pointed out that Hextall is only the 4th man on a losing Stanley Cup team to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, so that kind of speaks for itself.
Okay, some other things did happen today. We will update you on the condition of Detroit's Adrian Dantley, who was injured in yesterday's Game 7 between the Pistons and the Celtics. Do you remember that Game 7?
Yes, we do remember that Game 7. Also ahead, Mark McGuire hot for the A's, but the Yankees were hotter today in the Bronx. And Chris Everett cruised her way on the red clay in Paris today. Those stories and more ahead. At St. Louis, runners at the corners, and Phil Garner at the plate wraps one deep to left field with Hatcher and Duran on the move. It's 7-2 Strohs, and it looks like a rout. But it's 7-3 in the 6th. Pinch hitter for the Cards, Jim Lindemann delivers a bases-loaded single. 2 runs are in. All of a sudden, those Cardinals have pulled it within 7-5. 8-5 Houston in the 8th. Ozzie Smith kind of slaps this Dave Smith offering. Chuck Jackson makes the nice try, but can't come up with it in center field. Tony Jalapena and Jose Oquendo score. It's 8-7. Move into the 9th. Pena up, and watch this pitch by Smith. Oh, excuse me, falls down, but yes, that is the called strike. 3rd strike, and that's the out that ends the ball game as Smith picks up his 8th save. Each team used 6 pitchers in this wild one, Jim. 2 silhouettes on Deshays gets the win as Houston beat